Hi, good morning, and welcome to Seek Sustainable Japan. I'm glad you could join us live this morning. So nice to see you. We already have Natasha in the chat room. Thank you so much for joining. Now we have the fabulous Ally Hongo today. Thank you so much for joining, Ally.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, JJ. I love the podcast. I'm so honored to be here.
Oh, it's fabulous. And I was at your amazing awards ceremony for Japan Travel Awards, and I realized it has been years since you came on the show. So it's wonderful to catch up. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Now, when we talked last time, it was really just at the start of Shiitake Creative, your business, and Japan Travel Awards in 2021. We just had the award ceremony. It was the fourth annual one. Oh my gosh, you must have seen so many changes over the years, right?
Right. Excuse the cat. He may pop up at some point. Yes, that's right. I can't believe it's already been a couple of years since we last spoke, and really the last time when we saw each other on the show, we were really at the very initial stages of starting the business and starting the Japan Travel Awards. And yeah, as you said, like so much has changed over the past 3-4 years. Yes.
But you have a really long story. Let's talk a little bit about you and your backstory. So you originally came to Japan in high school. Is that right?
Yes. I came to Japan when I was 15 with my family. We moved here because my stepfather was Japanese. Sorry, the cat's
Hello, Kitty. No, we're fine. That's a magic of being live. No worries.
So we came when I was 15, and then I was enrolled in a Japanese public high school, and that's when really everything started. I came here with zero Japanese at the age of 15, when all you care about is your friends back home, and I'm not sure I really enjoyed being here at the beginning. But like after some time, I got used to the life here in Japan, and yeah, I stayed. It's been now, what, 23, 4 years.
Now, if I'm going to show your website here, allyhongo.com, you ended up getting 2 degrees in Japan. So graduated from high school, and then you got an undergrad in communications, and then a master's in media studies. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. So I went to Temple University, the Japan campus, and I studied international affairs. And I took a lot of communication classes as well. And then after that, I took a year off to work a little bit and see what it's like to work in Japan. And then after that, I went to grad school and studied media studies and majored in communications.
Yeah, beautiful. You have this amazing website, allyhongo.com, and you've got 4 categories. You've got so many wonderful interviews: Japan lifestyle, travel and food, Japanese news and opinion, more politics focused, all the different work and all the different media you've worked with. Do you have a favorite? Which topic you like to write about or you like to focus on?
Right. I really enjoy interviewing people, and you're so amazing talking to people. But I prefer writing. So I really love to share people's stories, and just sitting down with people and just hearing how they've come to be who they are, and their journey. And that's really the best. I'm sorry. He's having a moment.
Oh my gosh. I hope your house is okay. You've interviewed some amazing people, like some very famous, very influential people. And I see the parallels for the focus when you're recommending places for the Japan Travel Awards. You go and check them. You're also adding interviews in this year. I noticed for the judges, we had interviews to watch with each of the top people.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about these initial famous people you interviewed, though.
So one of them was Yumi Katsura. Sadly, she passed away last year. She's one of the most famous bridal fashion designers in Japan. We sat down a couple of years ago and talked about, how she started the bridal industry in Japan, and her story was just so amazing. That was one of my favorite interviews ever. She was so gentle, so well spoken, so soft, despite all her credentials and just amazing portfolio. She was really lovely. Then we had Mr. Hasebe, the mayor of Shibuya, here, and also the one you have before is okay. This is Kataoka-san from the Mori Art Museum in Roppongi in Tokyo. She's the first female director of the museum. She was also amazing, so easy to talk to, amazing story, and just it was really great to see how she was really trying to work. It was right in the COVID times when I interviewed her, and she was struggling a lot because no one was allowed to go to museums, right? But she tried to create some digital platforms for people to still see art during those difficult times. She was amazing, fascinating to talk to. Yeah. This is and the two people who started the Black Lives Matter movement here in Japan. Two fascinating individuals, and they did so much to tell the story of Black Lives Matter here in Japan, because a lot of people didn't really understand it. And then Naoko Yamasaki, one of the very few female astronauts. She's as well, like, just so amazing, so down to earth. No pun intended, but like so easy to talk to, and so gentle, and just she always takes the time to just sit down and really guide you through her story. And she has an amazing story of how she ended up in space. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, so many interesting people, and the focus on diversity, inclusion, and these are so key for the Japan Travel Awards, and also how you run Shiitake Creative, right? Like your own team is
Exactly.
also showing how you can represent and how you can have such high quality and value from having a more diverse and inclusive team, right?
Right, right. That's really important for us. We all come from different, really, backgrounds, and we think that that's a starting point. Diversity is really important because we really think that, if you always mingle with the same people that like yourself, like, you end up with the same results ever. So it's really important to interact with people who have different views, who come from different backgrounds, have different stories. That's really what makes you create new things, I think. So that's extremely important for us.
Now, now I have a noisy cat. This is Gary, everybody. Gary is also noisy this morning. Something about the weather. I don't know what's going on, Ali. um, but can you introduce your team a little bit? So,
Right. So these are Tiana and Jake. Jake is our art director. He's from the Philippines and has lived in Japan for a while. Tiana is from originally her parents are from Greece, but she was born and raised in Australia. She's our graphic designer. Also moved to Japan a couple of years ago. They're amazing, amazing, talented people. We have Rico here, who is from, her mom is from Japan, her dad is from the US. She has lived in Hawaii and in Japan. She's completely bilingual, very talented. She's our Gen Z um, member of the team, who always, makes sure that I stay on track with the latest trends. And Yuri, she's our Japanese copywriter, also extremely talented, and she takes care of all the Japanese writing. And the most recent addition to our team is Brooke. She's from Australia, but she moved here as a student some years ago, and now she lives in Chiba with her partner, and she's settling here in Japan. She's our editorial assistant. And that's me, and Seiya, my husband, and also the CEO of the company. We founded a company together.
and then not pictured here, but your son is also an important part of the team, right?
Yes, he knows all the secrets.
Yeah.
He knows everything.
And I heard you say he gives you advice on your language ability.
Oh, he does. Yeah, he it's funny. He's just 5 years old, but sometimes I forget that he's just 5 years old, and I consult him about a lot of different things. Like something didn't go well at work, and I was like, this happened. What do you think? And he's like, okay, tell me everything. And then, he corrects my Japanese now and my singing. We go to karaoke. Sometimes he sings way better than I do, and he's correct to correct me. So.
Because he goes on all the Japan Travel Awards checks with you, especially if it's a family friendly check.
Exactly.
So that's really an important part as parents to show which places are very welcoming. Family travel is
Exactly.
something we want to create more value in Japan, right?
Definitely. And Japan is a very kid friendly country. You have all these public restrooms where you can change diapers, and you can warm your formula, and all these facilities are just impeccable. But when it comes to traveling with kids, surprisingly, there are not so many places where both the parents and the kid can enjoy at the same time, which I was actually quite surprised to find out after he was born and experience this in the first place. So that's why we try to bring him along to family friendly places, because that's how you actually experience. If he's not there, we don't get to see whether you can, now he's no longer moving around in the stroller, but when he was younger, you see like whether it's easy, the place is easy to push a stroller, or how the staff connect with the kid, how they can actually accommodate the children, and this kind of stuff. Unless we bring him, we can't really see properly, so sometimes we make sure to bring him along, which is not always easy, but but
No,
it's helpful.
but often it also intersects with accessibility,
Exactly.
right? Like when you need to use a stroller, if it's only stairs, that's an issue, right?
Exactly. So yeah, he's also helping us, when we go to accessible places, to really see whether it's really accessible. As you said, if it's just stairs, it's difficult to move with a stroller, or yeah, just he helps a lot.
I was on the bus yesterday going into town, and I was so grateful to see someone in a wheelchair. And the bus driver got off and put down the ramp and got him in and secured him before he got going. And I was like, great. We need to see more of that. Like, of course, people in wheelchairs or using strollers, you should be able to go everywhere. But I feel like Japan is still kind
Mhm.
of struggling with accessibility. And I know you work a lot with one of the judges, Josh
Yes.
Grisdale, who's
Mhm.
amazing,
Mhm.
and Accessible Japan, right?
Right. Yes. Japan, I think, in terms of infrastructure, is quite advanced in comparison to other countries, especially in bigger cities. If you have, I think there's a law, and don't quote me on the exact numbers, but if there's like a, over a certain number of people using that station, it has to be barrier free. It has to have an elevator, and it has to have a ramp if people need it. So these things are really in place in a lot of bigger cities. Um, but what is missing is that Japan's welfare um, section is different from tourism section. So these two government eh, bureaus are not really linking with each other to create like to benefit from each other. So a lot of times we don't see so many tourism destinations that are really focusing on accessibility, which is, I think, the next step for Japan to really improve on that, because they already have quite a solid base. It's just a matter of showing it and really being proud of it, and not only functioning as a welfare um, infrastructure that they have established, but something that people can just really benefit on a day-to-day basis. So I think that's going to come soon.
Yeah, which is so important because accessibility issues helps everyone. If you hurt your leg, I've had guests who are on crutches. That helps them.
Exactly.
It helps people with strollers. It helps people with wheelchairs. It helps elderly people
Exactly.
who are walking with a cane. So it really helps all your guests, right?
Exactly. And also, even, sometimes people who are carrying, even foreigners carrying luggage, heavy luggage, if there is a ramp, for example, or something that can help them move the luggage, or even, services that bring your things to your home. It helps if there is accessible infrastructure installed. It really benefits everyone. There's no downside to it.
Yeah, absolutely. A great question from Natasha. Are there places around Japan did you find which were comfortable for breastfeeding or feeding your baby?
Um, so a lot of the places that we travel to, I think a lot of those places are smaller, and they're not confined by, like, social norms so much. I think in Japan it's still not so easy to breastfeed in public. A lot of people, shy away, just in, like, things, just showing your body in general. So I think we have a long way to go to, but the places that we're visiting, they're quite flexible. If you ask for, like, can I breastfeed here, or can you help me to do this, they will always um, find a way to assist you in that.
I see a lot of mothers with the cape,
Yes.
right? So covering up when you're breastfeeding, and I know that's popular in other areas. I did that as well,
Mhm.
but more and more in like malls and things, I'm seeing a feeding
Yeah.
room, so you can go and feed your baby,
Yes.
which is
Mhm.
it's lovely to see as part of the like
Mhm.
changing room, but also
Yeah.
feeding room. Like it's really nice to see.
Definitely, yes. In most shopping malls, I think around our area as well, they have, like, specific breastfeeding and also feeding places where you can go and warm up your formula or breastfeed, or just sit in quiet and just make sure your kid is fine and you're fine. Yeah, that's really wonderful.
That's awesome. Now, how did the Japan Travel Awards? How did you kind of start with the idea to do an awards, to go out and check places, to do a awards ceremony? Like, where did this all start? Where did it come from?
Right. So that's a long story. But so it really stems out from our idea of, so we started Shiitake Creative, which is a creative agency, and most of our work is involved in promoting Japan to overseas tourists. So we used to work in English media. For before starting Shiitake Creative, we used to work. The founding members used to work at several English media in Japan, and at the time, a lot of our work involved writing and promoting different destinations in Japan. But the way media works is, they come with the final product and say, please share the story, please promote it. And as media, we have very little um, a chance to talk about the actual product. And a lot of the times it wasn't great to promote, when we felt like only if they did this, and if they, brushed up this side of the destination, it would have been easier to promote to our readers. um, so that's the very initial stage, and then we founded Shiitake Creative because we wanted to get a little bit more involved with shaping up the actual product before we promote it. So consulting with destinations and telling them, this is probably the right way to for this audience, and we wanted to get a little bit more involved into this consulting process. And then we started Shiitake Creative in the early months of 2001, and then we were, like, just sitting down and talking about, like, what's a good way um, to change the way Japan promotes its destinations to overseas visitors. Um, and the idea was that really Japan needs to work on how it includes diversity and inclusion, and all these elements were missing, and we knew that that's an issue. Uh, so we wanted to find the right way to make it influential, to make it something that would stick in people's minds and also motivate them to change these things and to make their products more appealing to a wider audience. So as we were brainstorming, we came up with the idea, well, let's do an award, because everyone loves to be praised for the good things they're doing, but also award is a good tool to say, okay, you're doing great things here, but also if you, if you brush up this side of the product you're offering, it could be even better. And when it comes from a positive um, direction, I guess people are more keen to listen to that. So it was also the COVID times, and people, especially the travel industry, was very damaged, very, the the future was kind of, people didn't know what's going to happen, and everyone was kind of down. It was really stopped. So we felt like, okay, let's do something positive that's really going to push things forward. And we were like, okay, how about like Japan Travel Awards? And then we just checked the domain, and we didn't think it's going to be available, but it was available. So we just like went, okay, let's just buy it, and we bought it. And then we were like, okay, we have to really shape this thing. So idea about the awards, just really, that's how it started. And we just wanted to say, by showcasing really good examples of how different destinations across Japan are doing different things, we thought that this could kind of motivate the entire industry to see different things from different perspectives.
It's so wonderful to focus on the positive, and I put that as the title for this talk because I love being a part of Japan Travel Awards. I love having that positive view, and of course there are experts, and newspaper is full of the problems, the negative,
Hmm.
but there's not enough people highlighting what's already great, right?
Exactly.
Then exactly what you said, by highlighting what's great, getting people interested in joining, and then slowly you can make changes. This would be better, or suggestions, but already coming from a place of support instead of cutting people down, right?
Exactly. Because I think people, everyone is doing, their best on a different level. And I think um it's easy to criticize, and it's easy to say like, oh, you're missing this, you're missing that. But when you say like, oh, hey, you're doing a great job here, let's try this as well. So that's why a very important part of the Japan Travel Awards is that we actually provide feedback to all the finalists who didn't make it until the end and who didn't win an award, and we say, this is why, this is what was missing, and this is what all the judges had to say, and that's how they suggest you improve your service. And a lot of the times they're like, oh, we really didn't think about that, but we're so glad you're telling us. And they implement those changes, and some of them try again and they win. Or they may not, but the important thing is that it's a chance for them to really consider how people see their service, and just think of some issues that they may have not actually realized until now.
And from doing a awards ceremony, doing an award contest, and then you send people out to go and check it in person, and then write the reports, and then the judges are able to analyze and give you feedback and make the awards. There's a lot of costs involved. Do you charge anything for people to enter? How does that work?
No. So in the first 2 years, when the project was still, shaping up, and we would ask the finalists to cover just the transportation expenses, but then we realized that creates difference between, say people like in Hokkaido or people in Okinawa. The transportation costs are completely different. So we decided to make it completely free for anyone to enter. Um, from the third year on, because that creates a chance for small businesses and businesses that are very remotely located to enter as well. So what is happening is basically we are covering our own expenses to go there. We don't charge anything for the screening fee. We don't charge anything for the transportation. Um, uh, which means that we have to really work hard on different projects to cover that. And the next step is to find sponsors who really believe in this and are eager to help us cover those expenses. But we're thinking to keep the awards completely free, because that creates a really fair chance for anyone to enter and showcase their work.
And it's really an important part of the philosophy, right? Like your partner Saya was talking about, really focused on rural locations, small businesses. And you do get people wanting to enter who are like mass market international big businesses. But
Mhm.
you're saying, actually, you guys are easy to do, big PR, and right, we need to help these smaller places. Is that right?
Exactly, exactly, yes. And the whole idea is that basically, um, one of the initial issues we wanted to really address is that in Japan, the way regional promotion works is usually it's the places who can obtain governmental subsidies to pay for promotion, to pay because it costs a lot to publish articles in large media platforms, and just to run any campaigns. So it's usually the bigger places with bigger budgets that can actually afford that. But that creates one issue. First of all, we see the same content over and over again, and then we don't see the content that is really out there and really doing amazing things. But just because they don't have a platform to showcase their work, or the budget to reach out to different audiences, it just gets buried. So we wanted to tackle that, and first of all create a little bit more diversified content that reaches people overseas, and also just to show that that there are small businesses around Japan that are doing amazing things. And they also need a platform to show that and be proud of that, because it's easy to say like, oh my God, yeah, like big hotels and big, regional governments are doing an amazing job, and it's easy to give up if you think you're so small in comparison to them. But we want to encourage and say like, it doesn't matter your scale of business, it just matters that you're doing something to address diversity and inclusion, something to welcome more people to your destination. And it doesn't matter how big or small you are, just as long as you're on the right track. Yeah, so that's why we keep it free and fair for everyone to enter.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's such a great service for the future of Japan travel, for sure. And the categories are really important, right? You want to go through the categories quickly here?
Right. So since the beginning of the Japan Travel Awards, we've had accessible travel, LGBTQ travel, sustainable travel, and inbound travel have been the very core categories since the first year. And this is coming from our realization that these things were rarely spoken about when we were promoting as media, as writers, and um, these issues were rarely discussed. We had our readers reach out and say, hey, this place is amazing, but I'm in a wheelchair, or I'm traveling with a kid, or how is how are same-sex couples perceived in Japan, and especially in the countryside? Is it okay, to hold hands and stuff like that? Or just people were wondering, and we realized that there is no much of a discussion about these things. So these we decided that okay, travel really needs to have these categories, and that's very important. So these are these four categories were the from the very beginning on, and then we added best family travel and best destination development as well. Um, After I think the second year, because also we realized, as I said earlier, that family travel is really not so diverse in Japan. It's not that easy to enjoy traveling with a kid and also enjoy it as a parent. Yeah, so these are the categories, and the main points when we judge each destination is really, as you can see here on your screen, is it's all about how they are approaching diversity and inclusion, how basically how they are trying to make their service accessible to different groups of travelers in different ways. Is it a good travel content? First of all, is it fun for everyone? Is it welcoming to diverse groups of people? And is it sustainable? Because sustainability is really really important when we travel. Not only about the ecological side of it, but also like how it impacts the communities in this specific area.
Absolutely. You know, I'm passionate about that. And I appreciate being part of the team, the judging team, because it's so wonderful that from the start of your awards, that has been a foundation pillar.
Yes,
That if you don't have that, that's a problem for getting the award, right?
yes, definitely, yes.
And the quality is really improving every year, and I think that is also thanks to all the efforts that you're doing with the awards, but also all the consulting, all of
Yes.
the PR, all of the marketing is also
Right.
important, right?
Yes, and it's also, thanks to our lovely panel of judges, including you, JJ, we have so many fascinating people who are like really coming from different backgrounds and they work in different industries. And you, our judges, are really helping us narrow down and see what's a great about a certain destination. And you ask questions from very different in coming from different topics, like you're always about sustainable. Is this place really sustainable? Is it good for the community? And then Josh is like, oh, do they have a ramp? So we make sure that we have different people who are bringing all the difficult questions. And if at least like 80% of those questions are not a yes, then it means that the destination is still not award worthy and they have to brush up their services. So this really has helped improve how we see destinations and what we judge a destination to be a good one and award worthy. Thanks to all of you and your great insights.
Oh, it's wonderful to be a part of it and to see improvement. And I'm sure Josh and the other judges feel the same in their area. They're seeing improvements year on year. So it's showing that it's working, right? Amazing. So this was the fourth year. The first awards was 2022.
Yes,
You had 28 finalists, 30 prefectures, and 80 entries.
right.
And then 2023, you had 145 entries,
Mhm.
36 prefectures,
Yes.
28 kandochi. What's
Yes.
kandochi?
So kandochi is a play on word because in Japan kankochi means it's a sightseeing destination, sightseeing spot. But we kind of change that and we say kandochi, and kando means to be really moved, touched by something. So we think that a really good travel content is a place that can really move you, and make you feel that it really stands out. So if you're touched by a destination and by a certain destination and how they welcome you and how they're trying to prepare for your visit, it means it's a great place. So we call it kandochi instead of kankochi.
I get it. That's great. And then 2024, you had 163 entries, 18 finalists, and 10 winners. And
Right.
then this year,
Mhm.
2025, 196 entries, 16 finalists, and 11 winners. Wow.
Right.
So it really is growing.
It
Amazing.
is growing, and at the same time, you can see that we have less finalists because the screening process has become much more difficult. We have more entries, but we're becoming more strict about all the judging criteria, and we really want to make sure that the people that get to the last stage are really really addressing different issues in their travel destination.
Let's talk about the award winners this year on your website for Japan Travel Awards. You can see all the winners laid out. Let's start with the Grand Prix. What an amazing story they have. Kurabito Stay.
Right. So Kurabito Stay is is Japan's first sake brewery hotel. It's based in Saku in Nagano Prefecture. Um, and basically, what you can do there is you can go and experience working as a real sake brewer for a day or two. It depends on the program. And you go through all the processes. You wash the rice, you clean the rice, and you work together with real sake brewers, and they guide you around through each of the process. And then you also stay in an old renovated house, a 100-year-old house, which used to be the place where sake brewers coming from different prefectures during the sake making season were staying. And now it has been renovated into a hotel. And yeah, so you basically experience the life of a traditional sake brewer in the most authentic way. But what's really interesting is also there's so many fascinating things about this place. But the main thing is that it was founded by a woman who used to work, Marika Tazawa-san. She used to work at a big travel company a couple of years ago, and she experienced a couple of things that she wasn't really happy with, and made her think different issues. And one of it was that it was Japan is really very good in organizing mass tourism, right? We put people on buses and we send them to different destinations just for an hour. They buy souvenirs, they spend just maybe a couple of minutes, they eat like some regional food, and they get back on the bus and they go back home. So in her work of organizing these tours, she was really asking, like, what do people actually learn about this specific destination, and what was their experience like being so short? um, they haven't really experienced the place. They don't know much about this place. So she wanted to change that. And instead of, having 100 people come to a single destination for an hour, she wanted to have one person come for 100 hours. That's what she was saying. Uh, and Sako is also her hometown, and she wanted to go back and really work hard to bring people there, and to show different people that the place is really great. And also she experienced something really difficult as a mother when she became a mother, and she said that she's pregnant and she's going to be a mom. She was instantly removed from all her duties in her past company, and she was just forced to do like things that were not really motivating her as a professional. She was, I think, asked to wash glasses and that kind of things. So in her business, when she started Kurabito Stay, she really wanted to also encourage women to work. So Kurabito Stay only employs women from the region, and they can work only on weekends. So it only functions on weekends. But that helps them, work for a couple of hours when they're available, or if they want to work the whole day, they can work the whole day. If they want to work 1 hour, they can work 1 hour. But she really wants to tackle this issue that women can choose also how they want to work. And she created this business model that really helps women to shine and be confident and be motivated through their work. So that was one of the highlights.
Amazing.
um,
And what we're showing is the video that you created for them
right,
and all of your social media, which really and very beautifully and concisely explains about the appeal of the place, right?
right,
But also it highlights all of these important points about diversity and inclusion, focus on women. It tells their story in a way that I think a lot of these places find very difficult to do in English or
right.
to the inbound market. And that's what you can really offer them as part of the Japan Travel Awards, right?
I think so, yes, because the story is really important, especially when it comes to small businesses. They started with a certain problem or idea or something they really wanted to tackle and really change. And even though it's a small beginning, it leads to bigger changes. And you have to tell this story to people in order to really feel the passion of the place. It's not just a travel destination that you go to and have fun, but it has a solid story. And the more we hear about these stories and the more we share about these stories, I think it really helps understand how travel is created in Japan and all the back issues that are leading to this creation of travel destination.
Absolutely. And it also feeds into that idea that it's not just about the visitor
Mhm.
only, it's about the
Exactly.
local people. You have to have that balance. You have to build community
Right.
with offering tourism. And I think that's often lost with the
Mhm.
idea of just catering to the numbers. That's all that
Yeah,
matters. The numbers are important. But what you realize, what you're focusing on quality and rural destinations and smaller businesses, no, it's about people. And without taking care of the people, you do not have value in tourism, right?
exactly. We believe so.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's continue with the winners.
Right.
So they were the grand winners, and that was so amazing to see her receive the award, and then it's so emotional, and it comes from such a personal story too. It was wonderful.
And then we have the winner of the best accessible travel is a place called Wildwater in Shiga Prefecture. Shiga is where Japan's largest lake, Biwa Lake, is located. And this place, Wildwater, was created a couple of years ago by a person called Kano-san, Mr. Kano. So he used to be a firefighter for like 20 something years. And then, of course, because of his work, he's trained in rescuing people, and he's seen a lot during his work. And he has two kids, and he loved going to Biwa Lake for fishing. Um, but like when he was just watching his kids play on the lake, he was thinking like, what if something happens and they're in a wheelchair and they cannot really play like this anymore? And he thought that as a firefighter, he can help them still play and still enjoy life, even if they can no longer they're not physically fully capable of playing like that. But he said like he can do that for his own kids, but are there enough options for people who cannot do that, who are not trained in doing that? And he thought that no, there are no really accessible tour operators who do that. So he decided to start his own, and he founded Wildwater, which offers accessible canoe tours or accessible fishing. And you can see here, that's how the wheelchair goes on a sub stand-up paddle. And that's the boat where he has developed his own equipment, a harness that pulls up people in wheelchair and put like this and puts them on a boat. The boat then carries them into the lake, and from then on, the same equipment is used to help them board the stand-up paddle or the canoe or whatever they want to
It's
experience.
such a great idea, and it really gives you a strong feeling that, oh wow, when people say you can't do something because it costs too much, he just found a way to make it work, like on a very limited budget, using pulleys, but it makes it accessible. So it just make it work. I love that concept.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And then we have the winner of the best LGBTQ travel this year was Ace Hotel in Kyoto. Ace Hotel is an international chain. It's the first Ace Hotel in Japan and in Asia. But what really stands out is I think a lot of hotels are starting to do, different campaigns for Pride Month in June. But it's very, very rare to see um, such campaigns, LGBTQ allies just running through the whole year. And Ace Hotel is a really pioneer in that. The GM, Shiho Ikeuchi-san, she's really involved and she's a great ally for the LGBTQ community. So basically, at Ace Hotel, there is pride is running all year. You have different campaigns. You can see rainbow flags here. Just diversity, this acceptance, this natural acceptance of diversity is really evident at the hotel. And they sponsor a lot of LGBTQ events in the community as well. Um, and it's just, you can feel it. It's different there. You can feel the acceptance and just the pride of being different and diverse, and it's just everywhere in this hotel.
It's
So
amazing to just feel like it's including everybody. It's
yes,
inclusive instead of exclusive. And
exactly.
I
Mhm.
walked by, I just happened to walk by the other day in Kyoto and I was like, what a beautiful hotel.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is the Ace Hotel.
Yeah.
And so I know about it from the Japan Travel Awards, but I just saw it. So it's
Mhm.
beautiful as well. They said they have a screening room.
They do.
So they like to show from filmmakers who are focused on LGBT plus issues, but it's
Right.
also focused on art and creativity
Exactly.
and you
Hmm.
supporting local artists and stuff. So it's wonderful.
Exactly. Yes. Hmm. And then the winner of the best sustainable travel was I. It's an indigo dye studio in Awaji in Hyogo Prefecture. It's run by Sally and Junichi, a couple from the UK and Japan. And what's amazing about them is that they grow their own indigo, and they run workshops to really teach about how indigo is made from the very initial stages, and they do it entirely in English as well. It's very educational, very fun. They're really very strong about upcycling. You can bring your own clothes, you can send them your own clothes, and just find new ways to wear old clothes instead of throwing and buying, easily throwing and buying new things. So it's a really, really great place to see. It's also accessible. It's very spacious studio. You can get in a wheelchair there. It was wonderful. It was just such a fun experience. They're so lovely. But this element of, really thinking about slow fashion and thinking about waste in the fashion industry, it was just really great. And I'm just like sorting out my clothes right now. I want to buy send them so many clothes, and find a new way to wear them.
Yeah, fantastic. And it's also wonderful to see international residents who are so embedded and committed to Japanese community and culture and being a part of that rural community.
Mhm.
Their kids are keeping the schools alive. Their organic farm is protecting the environment and helping local people. So
Right.
there is so many wonderful sustainable destination, but also business models there. They're also artists
Right.
themselves
Yeah.
and love working with indigo. So they have that passion, right?
Very beautiful. All their stuff are so beautiful. It's hard not to buy everything from their stores.
Yeah. And then interesting, the kendo experience, he also said he uses natural indigo dye
Exactly.
for
Yes.
their uniforms, right?
Yes. So the winner of the best inbound travel was Samurai Trip Kendo Experience Tour. They What they do is they offer kendo tours to overseas travelers. They do it entirely in English, and one of the things we see with the inbound market in Japan is that oftentimes it's very superficial. It's kind of like, oh, here is ninja, here is, geisha, this kind of, very just the top of the surface experiences are very common in Japan. But this one really stood out because it it really it's such an immersive experience, and it's not just created just for inbound travelers. It's really kendo, and you practice with real kendo masters, and it feels like you're actually studying the craft, even if it's just a 1 hour experience. And it was extremely immersive, very educational, pretty smart as well. It's not an easy experience, but also another thing that really stood out in their application is because the craftsmen who make the kendo ware, it's a dying industry in Japan. A lot of the kendo ware nowadays comes from overseas, and the craftsmen who create this are really, they don't have enough funds to keep their craft alive. So partial proceeds of these tours go to these craftsmen to continue making the masks, and also, yeah, as you mentioned, the wear is also made with indigo as well, which is very costly.
Yeah.
So he's
And
trying to.
a lot of indigo in Japan, I talked to big indigo dye companies, and they're actually importing indigo
Exactly.
from other countries. So if they're doing it with made in Japan indigo, that's also protecting kind of a dying part of the art and trade, right?
Mhm. Yes.
Wonderful. And then best family travel and best destination development.
Right. So, Best Family Travel is a farm in Mie Prefecture, Iganosato Mokumoku Tezuguri Farm. So, this place is really, as I mentioned, a place, one of the rare places where both the parents and the kids can really enjoy. It's a place that really teaches you about how food is made, and oh, like just the farmers' work, and also like how animals are really working so hard to keep us humans alive, basically. Kids get to experience milking the cows, feeding the cows, and it's a very hands-on farm that really teaches you of the importance of um, how farm work is really done. Our kid, like he was really, he always like didn't drink his milk, but after going to Mokumoku, he was like, oh, the cows are going through so much to make a cup of milk, so he's never thrown milk after that. So it's that kind of like fun, educational. It's really enjoyable. And they also have cottages. They do it because they want to get people to stay for the morning work, and it starts very early, as all farms do. So they have kids friendly cottages, which are, with like created cute designs, like strawberries and all this kind of, it's very beautiful. um
And then Hako House
Hako House.
it's a great example of how a place had applied before,
Right.
needed to make some improvements, and they came back and they won a prize. So
Exactly.
really, congratulations to them.
Yes, Hako House was a finalist last year. Unfortunately, they didn't win. They were very close to winning, but they didn't win because they had a couple of issues that we found, that they were still not in there. And we sent them a feedback, and they really used that feedback as almost like a textbook, and they improved each point. They added English to their website. They made their tours more interactive, and they reapplied, and it was really good content. So this year we were unanimous that they deserve to win. Hako House is a place that tries to promote Nagaoka, Niigata, through its culture of fermented food. It's one of the places that is really famous for miso, rice, soy sauce, and it's really trying to revive. It's an accommodation that comes with a private restaurant, where you can experience all these foods, and you can learn about the farmers and all these local producers as well. It's
It's
it's a very well connected
Yeah,
community.
yeah, the fermentation, such a key part of so many parts of Japanese culture, right? And
Right.
then he's really helping the community by growing more food, bringing people, bringing new residents as well. Just very quickly, let's touch on some of the special recognition awards. Go ahead.
Temple Stay Zenso is a temple accommodation in Gunma Prefecture. It's the first accommodation in Chiyoda City. It's where you can stay at a temple and experience all the cultural, traditional aspects of Buddhism as well. But it's also a very good balance of being also very modern and accommodating. You can bring your pet there even. And it's a really great place to experience both the cultural, and the monk who runs it is in his early 30s. He has two faces. He's like very down to earth. You can talk to him and have a beer maybe, but at the same time he guides you through, sutra writing and all these kind of things. So it was a really great balance of cultural and contemporary. Treeful Tree House is a tree house, Japan's first tree house resort in Okinawa. It's deep in the jungle of Okinawa, Yambaru in Okinawa, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, a sustainably created resort. It's real houses on trees. It's such a magical experience, something that you cannot experience anywhere else. It's very sustainably focused, um, and yeah, it's just such a unique destination. Sorry, the next one is best social impact. Social impact went to Ume Yamazoe, which is in Nara Prefecture. It's a small inn, renovated inn from an old house. What they do is that they invite I think 12 families with who have a member with some physical disabilities or intellectual disabilities to come and stay for free during the year, because they believe that families who live with a member who cannot really travel so much, they don't really think about traveling. They don't have that as an option, but they want to provide this option, and they're not just doing that in their own inn. They're trying to influence other inns as well to adopt this project, which is called Hajimari Project. So it's really spreading and creating, making this idea that people with physical disabilities and emotional, intellectual disabilities really want to travel like we do. So we need to create a platform for that. And the best accommodation went to Hakone Honbako, which is a place in Hakone. It's a library and a hotel. It comes with 12,000 books you can read, you can buy them. It's just about silence and just being with you and your own book for just a couple of hours away from everything. It's a wonderful destination. Yes.
Yay, fantastic. Thank you for
Sorry.
explaining all of them so well.
Knowing all the backstories, I can probably talk for like another 12 hours.
But that leads us to how you're actually producing a book, which is
Right.
coming out next month.
Right.
Tell us about it.
So we are finally creating a platform to put all these places together. So we are publishing a book called 70 Remarkable Japanese Places very soon. We're at the very last stage of editing. So this book is really about all the places that we visited during the first 3 years of the Japan Travel Awards. You will see all the winners, the finalists, and some places that didn't really make it to, didn't win an award, but still grabbed our hearts and made something that we believe is memorable and worth talking to. Just presenting it to people overseas. So this is a bilingual book. It's in English and Japanese, and we will sell it overseas, and hoping that people will discover locations that are not really featured in most travel guidebooks. You will see a lot of small businesses, a lot of locations that you've never probably heard anywhere else. Um, but these locations have like something that really makes them stand out, and they're all extremely welcoming and looking forward to welcoming people from everywhere in the world. These
And
places are
what a
accessible.
huge project, right? Bilingual, using beautiful photos and stories and designs that you and your team know so well after doing the Japan Travel Awards.
Right.
But it becomes kind of a guidebook
Mhm.
for places trying to get started and what kind of ideas, what kind of strategies they can use, as well as being a beautiful coffee table book, right?
Right. Yes. It's a beautiful book. I'm really proud of it. I hope people will really buy it. Our designer has done a great job, and I think the difference is that we really traveled to all these places. We took off the photos ourselves, and we in the text, it's really we've tried to um, really show that backstory that each place has. It talks a lot about how they came to be and their backstory, and I think this is really important. So yeah, I hope people will really find it interesting.
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing a copy. Is it going to be available in Japan as well at bookstores?
Yeah, so this is we're self-publishing this one, so we will sell it through our website and also probably start a Kickstarter as well to reach people overseas as well, but also planning to also talk with small boutique bookstores around the world. So it's a work in progress, but hopefully
It's
it will
amazing that it's almost here, though.
happen.
Well done. Uh,
Yes.
one final thing that I wanted to touch on was your work at the expo, Japan Travel Expo,
Right.
last year. And might we see you guys again at the Osaka Expo or another future expo?
We hope so, yes. Last year we participated in the Tokyo Tourism Expo. It was such a great experience. Our designers did a fascinating job in putting that whole booth together in such a short time. Yeah, a lot of people came. We were so surprised, but I think it was really a great opportunity to showcase what the Japan Travel Awards is. People were getting involved and hearing, voting even for the for the best place to win. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience. Hopefully, we'll see you in Osaka as well.
That's so good. And on your social media, so it's nice to see that at the event you were getting people to vote for their favorites, talking about all the important pillars, accessibility,
Yes,
sustainability. So all those people as well have a much better idea of what is a better future travel, which I love.
I think so. Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Well, I will put all the links below in the show notes so people can see all your beautiful work on social media and your website. Thank you so much, Ali, for all you do and for joining today.
Thank you, JJ. It was so wonderful to speak to you, and thanks so much for everyone who logged in today. Thank you.
And if you missed us live, thank you so much for joining us live. But if you missed us live, watching it on replay, make sure you add your comments and questions below. And of course, Ali and I will get back to you. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Seek Sustainable Japan. I'm JJWalsh in Hiroshima. I have a little bit of a cold, so excuse my husky voice. Today, I have the amazing Elly Hirano, who is a sustainability consultant now based in rural Kyoto area of Kamioka. Thanks so much for joining, Elly.
Thank you, JJ. It's an honor to be here. I'm so excited for the show.
Nice. It's so great to have you. I do sustainability consulting for the tourism business organizations, also for guides. How can we be more sustainable when we're introducing Japan to international visitors? You have worked a lot with corporate, so we've got a lot of great insights and great projects to talk about. I'm excited to get started.
Yes.
How did you first get interested in living a more eco life? You talk about being more than 20 years. You haven't eaten meat, and you always bring your own bottle and furoshiki and cloth and cutleries and a bag. So you already have this habit going for more than 20 years. So where did the spark start? How did you get interested? Do you remember?
I often get this question, but it's just like been my whole life. Like, I guess I've been an eco enthusiast for my entire life, and I guess, kind of like, to the extent that I'm kind of like a mania of being, like having this spirit of mottainai and actually trying to, save as much as possible. Like, I still remember, like, in middle school, I don't know what the professor, the teacher asked me, but like I actually replied like, "Oh, I'm trying to save trees, but by actually using like less plies for toilet paper." And I got this like dead silent in the room. But I mean, yeah, like I really don't know what sparked me, but I was from the beginning like that kind of kid that was trying to somehow be eco-friendly. Yeah.
That's great. Did you love like being outdoors as a kid? Did you have a grandma who was like a mottainai challenger, or anybody in your family who kind of inspired you, or any teacher along the way? It's always interesting to hear like from people what kind of started them on this path, you know?
Yeah, I was trying to like recollect like what actually sparked me because I moved around a lot. I'm a third culture kid, so I moved around a lot. And like the first few years I was in Bahrain in Middle East, so there was like back in the days there was like nothing. There's only the camels and such, so not much of a nature. It's just a desert. And you know, the next few years like in Singapore, lots of nature, but it's not like, you know, I interacted a lot with the nature. But constantly I was think that like my mother actually might have been an inspiration, that like she would actually reuse all like the wrapping papers to actually make like, you know, to cover the books, or like try to like actually recycle, like reuse as much as possible. So she might have been an inspiration back in the days. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much from previous generations, older Japan, that I think we can bring back, right? Which is so relevant now. In Hiroshima, we're one of the biggest producers of, well, the biggest producer for Japan of oysters. And so we have a lot of the bamboo floating oyster rafts, right? And
Yeah.
I met a Maine sustainable oyster farmer who came over and was doing consulting and educating here. And a lot of the advice she was giving about reusable bamboo baskets, for example, a lot of the local farmers were saying, oh, wow, we used to do that 50 years ago, you know, and then now seeing all the plastic pollution in the ocean, thinking it is time to bring back those solutions we were using because they're better. Now we know they're better. You must see a lot of examples like that too in the education and the consulting work that you're doing. Like bring it back from the old style, right?
Yeah, that's actually what I'm actually focusing on right now. Actually, like learning from like the local traditions that can inspire, you know, like modern day. There's a concept called circular economy that I'm focusing on right now. It's something that I really admire, and the term was coined by Kitabayashi Sao-san from Kyoto, and it's basically, you know, Edo is like the period of Japan, like Edo period was when Japan was like the most prosperous and peaceful and essentially zero waste, you know, like saving everything from hair to ashes and everything. But back in the days, you know, they just did that not because they were really eco-conscious or eco-warriors or anything, but it was just the way of living. And you know, it was just atarimae, like, you know, just a norm to actually, a common sense to actually be circular and to reuse everything, and repurpose it and such. So everything was naturally regenerative. And I'm with Kyoto, like who Kitabayashi-san, I actually, when I moved to Kyoto, Kameoka, like in February, the first thing I did was actually go see him because I was so passionate about this economy. And now I work with him to get together to actually create like cultural immersion programs for businesses to actually get inspiration from those like local traditional craftsmanship, because like the Satoyama villages in Japan, like the rural areas in Japan, and also like the traditional craftsmanships are the ones that actually, some of them are actually preserving the economy element of, you know, how to be more in touch with the nature, and how to use like the how to be sustainable. And so we bring people to those craftsmen and those area, and that for them to actually understand like how the nature. So like we bring them first to the 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 surrounding, like the shrines and the waterfalls, and then we go to the workshops of, for example, like a washi paper making designer and such, so that they have kind of like a wholesome idea of like the ecosystem of how the lives are of those like craftsmen. And then, you know, people get inspiration from like different areas, like from the product design to like just the natural ecosystem and such. And you know, like it's kind of like a reminder that like you can get, innovation is not just from like new technologies. There's actually a full-on rich history of how we lived in sustainably, because 100 years ago we didn't have any plastic, we didn't have any of these digital tools, or and those are recent developments. So why don't we just go back to tap into all these like rich resources that we had before. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much what I've been working on and will
Yeah.
be focusing on this year. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Have you read Asby Brown's book, Just Enough? It's all about the Edo era and
yeah.
all the circularity and sustainability at use during that time. And he has wonderful illustrations that he writes. And I've had him on the show talking about the circular economy of the Edo period. So definitely something to check out as well. And he might be also at the Minka preservation event coming up in your area. I'm not sure he can make it, but I think Alex Kerr, also a big proponent of bringing back the old, but making it relevant for modern life, And hopefully you're in Kamioka, Alex Kerr is as well. It'd be great if you guys can meet up. Very kindred spirits, right?
I know. I want to meet all these people.
Yeah.
Enjoy force. I mean, we should.
For sure. For sure. I think there's I felt so encouraged when I went to the Minka Summit event, and so many kindred spirits, so many like-minded people coming together, so many amazing, interesting, creative ideas. You feel less alone in what you're trying to do with a passion. And that's also really psychologically important, right?
Definitely, yeah.
So let's talk about some of your projects you've done in the past. Is this tree planting when you were working at MedLife? There's such a cute photo.
Yes. So so I used to work in a corporate called MedLife. I worked there for almost 15 years, and in New York and London and Tokyo, doing marketing, HR, and strategy and different stuff. But like this was one of like the more recent project that I had the honor to actually run this like digital adoption project to push people to actually, I shouldn't say push, but to incentivize people to actually like take upon like digital services instead of like doing all those like servicing for insurance in paper. So in order to incentivize people to actually use our digital tools, we actually said that like paperless, actually going digital would actually help in a way that to preserve trees and such. So we actually matched it with like tree planting actions. So unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know which one, but in Japan, like we don't really need more trees. We actually need more maintenance of trees. So we couldn't do a project in Japan, but I actually found an organization, a Japanese organization that actually does tree planting in Indonesia, in a very remote village. So yeah, we said that like for every sign up for digital services, like we would actually plant trees, and we were able to plant I forgot how many trees, but there in Indonesia, and I actually went there to see how it is, and that's the photo.
Yeah, that's so nice. I was just reading on Blue Sky about a project in Japan by an oyster farmer who was planting trees, and then he found the quality of his oysters was higher because the water was cleaner coming from the mountains because of the tree planting. So that really circular kind of thinking, which you're always so focused on. It's so nice to hear that other parts of Japan, there are people as well really passionate and who see that direct connection between tree planting, taking care of the forest, arborists getting in there and thinning out forests that are too dense and making them healthier. That's a big issue in Japan right now.
Yeah.
Having too many cedar, man-planted forests where it's all one kind of tree and everybody's allergic to that one kind of tree, right? So there's a lot we can do to improve our forests in Japan for sure.
Definitely.
And then your work in other parts of Asia, that also has really good effects back to Japan. These, this is something Tova often talks about with her work with Refugees Empowerment International, how doing work to empower entrepreneurs in other parts of Asia, these are people that in the future might come and live and work in Japan because of that connection, because of that support. It's all really important for peace and collaboration and entrepreneurship. There's so many wonderful knock-on effects, right?
Definitely, yeah.
You had another thing for MetLife here, the Echo Challenge. What was this about? Can you explain it?
So this is a program run by the global MetLife, and it's basically like 2.5 weeks of forming a team and actually committing to do eco-friendly actions. For example, you can see here that like people committed to actually using their own bottles, or like going meat-free and vegan, or like they would kind of stop using too much like shower, or like when they're brushing their teeth, like they would stop the tap and such, like all these like really like minor actions, but it accumulates. So it started with like very minor activity, but I had the honor to actually participate, and I actually won as a global kind of like champion, and then like Japan told me to actually lead it, so I led, and I was so passionate about it, so I was able to grow the number of participants and such, and that's how I got in touch, or I was amazed by how many people were um, actually passionate about it, and were eco-conscious, because before that I was quite a closeted like eco warrior. Like I wouldn't really like speak out about like my thoughts and such, and I would have my little like my cutlery with me, but I would never talk about, oh, you should have, or anything. But I was really encouraged by how many people were actually had the same mindset as me, and that's how I actually created a volunteer team within the company called Green Team, to just kind of like form a community, and then to drive all these like eco-friendly actions within the company.
That's awesome. It's something I do when I do tours with international visitors. They often talk about how there's no paper towels in the bathrooms. And sometimes there's no air dryer either. And then I explain, like before COVID, they were reducing waste and getting rid of the paper towels. And then they added the air dryers. But then during COVID, it was like spreading germs with the air. So some of them are stopped. So what you can do, I always recommend, is carry around a little towel and dry your own hands after. And, most guests are just like, whatever, that's too much trouble. But some guests are like, what a great idea. Like, what a small thing I can do and reduce the cost of running the public toilets, which everybody raves about, how clean, wonderful all the Japanese public toilets are. But also, like a habit that they might even take back and use in their own country is pretty cool, right?
Definitely, yeah. Like that, I think tenugui, I don't know how you say it in,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
English, but
The
like
small.
this long cloth, a very traditional Japanese cloth, is like marvelous. Like it's multi-purpose, and it can be a handkerchief, it can be something else. Like,
For
yeah.
sure.
So I usually carry a tenugui, which is really awesome. Yeah.
And multi-use. You can dry your hands. You can also wear it as a headband if you get
Mm-hmm.
sweaty, or like a variety of ways to use it. Sit on it if it's a
Yeah.
kind of a dirty place that you're sat down, or I mean, just you see people who are obsessed with collecting tenugui, kind of like every area they go to, buy a tenugui, different one as a souvenir. And then you've always got interesting ones, cute ones to use. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Another project you were doing is Climate Launchpad. Can you talk about this a little bit?
Yes, so apart from my corporate work, I was actually participating, or rather, I'm one of the founding members, but we had an organization called Purpose Driven Innovation Ecosystem, PDIE Group. So the founder, Christian Schmitz and Yuichi Terada. So Terada-san was my ex-colleague, and when I was kind of like trying to get into the sustainability realm, I contacted him, and he actually got me into this organization. It's an organization to co-create a better future. So it's about like linking all these like game changers. So I got to meet a lot of different academias to like startups and to all the different kind of people, which was great and gave me, you know, the confidence to actually become an independent sustainability freelancer. But this was one of their projects. Climate Launchpad is a big green startup competition, pitch contest, and we did the Japanese secretariat of the Climate Launchpad, and we run for like 3 or 4 years, and last year we paused, and this year apparently it's gonna happen again. But the first few years I was in charge of it, and it was really wonderful that like we were able to actually produce some great startups that would actually make it to the global competition as well and win some prize. But it's basically an incubator, like they only have like this like idea on a piece of paper, and we actually try to actually develop their ideas and to help them to create their pitch, and then they pitch, and some of them drop out, and you know they kind of can't make it to the end, but some ideas are just brilliant. So it's a great initiative, and really encouraging. If you have an idea, please sign up to Climate Launchpad, because it's a really good system to learn and to grow as a startup. Yep.
That's awesome. And that sounds in some ways very similar to your work with Enteleco in terms of One Young World. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the with Enteleco, we run this program called Sustainability Entrepreneurship Program. So this is entrepreneurship. So it's within the company. We're trying to build the entrepreneurship spirit. And so we have like these young leaders in the corporate signed up, and then we train them to have entrepreneurship mindset, and then we take them to this global under 30 summit called One Young World, which last year took place in Montreal, Canada. And just to inspire them, because you know initially like they're just salarymen, so very very closeted, you know, like they follow instructions, but they're not really good at actually, you know, being vocal about their opinions, or they might not even have their opinions, and they're very narrow-minded. So they're like, what, like I don't know, like I don't have too much opinions about it. So we push their boundaries to actually think about the ecosystem, you know, like how everything impacts each other, and what is it for the company, like for the society, like what's good, what's beneficial, and like, you know, they would kind of like push them. So, and then once they come back from the One Young World, they got inspiration from other younger leaders of their age, and then they come back and they start thinking about their own business that they need to pitch to the senior management. And after like 3 months or something, like they actually pitch to the senior management. And yeah, this year I was very lucky, because it was my first time actually coaching and training them, but my team actually went through, and they're now actually going to be realizing their the pitch that they made, like their business that they
Congratulations.
proposed.
That's
Yeah,
amazing. That must
yeah.
feel so good, right? When you're working with them, you feel like it has potential, and then they come through and they actually get the support they need to make it happen.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just like so great to see them like flourish, from this like very close kind of like narrow-minded person to like all of a sudden they're just like boom, like very vibrant, they're very vocal about their opinions. They might clash, amongst themselves, but they kind of collaborate together very well, and then like they start adding ideas because we actually train them to do, what if, and like yes and yes and yes and like try to keep them like motivated and spark like a lot of thoughts. So they really embrace that, and at the end like they become another person and they become a change maker for the company, and some of the previous participant actually left the company to actually do and actually make their own startup and such. So it's really fun to see how people shift their mindset, and pretty much like that's what I do across different work that I do right now. Like I feel like the bottom line like foundation is that like I'm trying to actually provide those aha moments and to shift the mindset of whoever the attendees are.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, absolutely. Another thing you're doing with Enteleco is a fintech, the Future Fit training, the Nordic program, which sounds really exciting.
Yeah, the Finland program. Yes. So this is with the Aalto EE, which is the Aalto University executive education, what do you call, like business school. So we partner with them, and this is like the same idea as like the One Young World, like sustainability entrepreneurship program, but for the corporate leaders. So like age doesn't matter. Like everyone needs inspiration, and we just are partnering with Aalto to actually provide the leaders, like middle to senior leaders of a corporate, to actually get inspiration from how Finland and Finnish companies are being so successful, because Finland is #1 in sustainability, #1 in happiness, and I think #7 in innovation as well. So they're up there doing something really good. But then they also have this kind of like traditional values, which actually resonates a lot with like Japan and Asian countries. So they're not like, like all full on, like very Western and very kind of like, innovative and progressive people. They're also kind of like grounded and traditional as well. So there are quite a lot of like things that we as an Asian can actually learn from them. So we're actually going to be hosting this program so that the corporate leaders can come to learn about the Finnish values and Nordic leadership, and then they come back and then we can plan the action planning so that they can actually bring it back to their business.
That's great. That sounds like a great program as well. And it brings back that idea, like bringing in solutions and strategies from outside Japan. And then actually, once you try to apply it here, there's so much relevance and people are already kind of there, like because of what used to happen or because they're already kind of thinking it. So sometimes you just need that innovation idea to come in, and then it actually connects quite well sometimes with Japan, right? It's wonderful.
Yeah, so I usually say, like innovation is not just technology, it's the leadership, the mindset and everything. You need those like in order to innovate. Like you need like someone whose mindset is in the right mode and a believer of whatever the solution is to drive those innovations. So, like tech is there's so much focus on tech, but really you need people to develop the mindset.
Training or even introducing a different way of thinking about these problems or strategies, and just thinking about things as possible instead of impossible is often an important change too, right?
Definitely, yeah.
You've also been, I mean, this is also connected training to education, of course. You've also done education programs, building like SDG understanding with high school students here. You did a collaboration with different kinds of games that you can play about recycling, the recycling master game, the circular economy, circular community game. When you're working with younger people in Japan, what do you notice? Like, what are the hurdles or what are the things that they seem to understand quickly, or any takeaways from the education work you're doing with young people in Japan?
So like the first photo that you showed is just me volunteering as like a career advisor. So I went to Kamaishi in Iwate, like to just inspire them about, you know, like the work that I do as a sustainability consultant, because, you know, in this little tiny town in Kamaishi, they don't have too many job options. And so there's certainly not a sustainability consultant there. So I went there to actually, you know, showcase what I do, and that, you know, there's a career option of such thing. So they're more reserved, you know, like they they don't really speak up or anything. They're very silent and observant, and so as a speaker, you feel kind of nervous that I may not have made too much impact. But then when you ask them for their opinion, or like the survey results, like they've actually absorbed a lot. So they're kind of silent observers, and they you do make an impact on their lives, such then they do learn a lot. So I feel like that's the case of a lot of times for like very younger people. They're shy towards like someone new to you, and they don't say too much, but they do have opinions, and they do have some thoughts, and they do have questions if you actually ask them. So, and yeah, like, so it's really interesting to know what they think about, and it's very important for you to actually ask, like, for them to write it down. Otherwise, you cannot get the feedback from
Yeah,
young
for
people.
sure.
Yeah, and then for
And
the
then doing
yeah.
doing these kind of games about what is circular economy, how can you recycle, how can you be a recycle master? The using games as a tool to talk with youth when you're educating, that must be an easier way to engage, right?
Yeah, so in terms of that, like the two games that you mentioned, the Circular Community and Recycle Masters, they're both from the Gomi no Gakko, the School of Waste, which I'm a partner of, and one is for actually for B2B. The Circular Community is for B2B, so for adults, for corporates. It's a role playing card for, and everyone takes a part in and a role of a real world situation, like city hall manufacturers or plastic producers, or, you know, wholesalers and such, and they need to solve like waste challenges together. And it helps like businesses to understand how, you know, every department and stakeholders need to collaborate to build a circular economy. So that's more for the, I wouldn't say young, but like for like corporate people to just have that aha moment of like, oh, we need to work together, and we need to be more like open-minded and think about the ecosystem and the different stakeholders. And then the recycle masters for the kids and also for adults and everyone is just to educate on the ocean waste and recycling methods and what materials can become, it can become if it's recycled properly. So this one is more interesting because it's just like really like cute characters of like styrophones, like noodle cups, or what like fishnets and such, and you're trying to actually match the materials like the polystyrene and like PET and like aluminum and such with the recycling methods like chemical recycle material cycle and such, and then try to produce like some other products and such. So a lot of times, like, you know, kids actually kind of like get really into it. They go nuts with like, oh, like I want this like pet bottle and such. And then if you do it right before like going to the beach cleanup, like it's very effective because like they learn so much about these like, you know, like different kind of materials and what they can do and what it can become. And then they go to the beach clean and then they find the actual like polystyrene and such, and they're like, ah, like I found it, now it can become this like food tray and such. So yeah, like we're trying to actually with these like kind of card games, we're trying to actually, you know, raise awareness of the waste and circular, because most of the times like people just like, you know, put it in a bin and that's it. Like if it leaves their hand, it doesn't really matter.
Don't think about it after that, right? Like
Yeah.
the idea of circular is thinking about it from the resources used to make it all the way to the end stage. What happens after you throw it in the bin? And that's often the concept people are not really thinking about, right?
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to change, because, you know, back in the days, it was like normal for people to actually like think about the entire product life cycle and you know the end of life. But these days, like the manufacturers, the consumers, we're so siloed, and we only kind of are aware about when it's right in front of you. But once it left our hands, we don't really know what happens.
And you've had some great projects because it's Hanami season now. It's a good one to talk about. You did a craft beer festival, garbage waste separation section, and I love this part of your notes. You said it had to be something easy for people to use even after they're drinking. I think that's a great standard, right? Like just make it obvious and clear what to put where, have all the pictures there. How did that project go?
Yeah, so this was for the Tsukuba Craft Beer Fest. So it started with sorry, this is gonna be long as well, but like it started with me like being the green team. Like we were frustrated about the in the corporate office, like how the the waste was not like recycled properly. It was not in the right place, like in the plastic. There were like papers and everything all mixed up, and we were frustrated. So we were like kind of like analyzing the waste, and I got well, I was also working for the well, I used to work in Tokyo in the Meguro city, so I was in the waste reduction committee as well, and my fellow committee member was a university professor who was actually studying about the waste design, like waste bin designs and such, and how it affects people. So like I got in touch with him, and then we talked about. I learned a lot about, you know, the waste bin like design and like the human behaviors, and then we visited like Muji and like different companies to actually understand the waste design, and we proposed to the MetLife general service, but unfortunately it didn't go through. But I had this like wealth of like knowledge of like the waste bin. So I asked my partner in Gomi no Gakko, Terai-san, like, you know, like I have all these like knowledge, like I want to like do something. I don't want to waste it. So he was like, I have a perfect project for you. Like we're actually going to be doing, you know, like managing the waste for the Tsukuba Craft Beer Fest. So that's how I put in all my knowledge, like, you know, the colors and like the signs, and like because it's a craft beer festival, like it needed to be something very easy to understand even if, when you're drunk. So so for example, like the waribashi, the chopstick, I made it like voting, like are you tipsy or are you drunk? And then people were like really enjoying, like, "Ah, how am I? Like I can't even like think about it. I think I'm too drunk." And then they would put in a drunk box. And it was a really fun activity, but in hindsight, like I should have considered how drunk people are in the craft beer fest, and they cannot read signs if they're too drunk. So maybe
So in that case, pictures or illustrations might be more important, or even having
yeah.
the exact thing that they're throwing in, having the sample of it on the board, and they just follow what's there and put it in. You often
Yeah.
see this, like a lot of visitors always mention Why are there no garbage cans in Japan? And my theory is that it's a labor shortage thing. And I've heard from some local managers that unless they can keep emptying the garbage can, they will take it away, because an overflowing garbage can is worse than no garbage can. Right? And so
Yeah.
you see that. You only see garbage cans in areas now in Japan where people can empty it regularly. But also you see these staffed areas for garbage for the festivals, where the staff are there helping people to put it in the right bin, because when people are drunk or tired, they just put it wherever. And then if somebody puts it in a pile, the pile gets bigger and bigger. There were loads of people from the Hanami parties showing huge garbage piles, right? And none of that is sorted. So creating some kind of system where it's easy, it's logical where to put what part of the garbage in what area, but also maybe encouraging businesses around to sell less waste, right? Like having a bigger charge for plastic bags, getting people to reuse their own furoshiki wrapping or their own bento boxes when they go to Hanami, right? Like how to, from many different angles, work on the waste issue. I'd love to hear more of your insights. That working with Meguro waste management, that must have been really interesting.
Yeah, like I did learn a lot about, like the local cities kind of point of view. They took me to all of the waste management facilities, like the incinerators and like where all the recycle happens and such. So I learned a lot about the backstories and such. And it's just that, like for the city itself, like collecting the waste costs money. So like as much as they want to reduce waste and as much as they want to recycle, like, like bringing well, separating and then bringing from one spot to the recycle ports, unless it's like kind of like all together and it's all in the same facility. Otherwise, it's additional costs, like go to like separate places and to try to actually recycle and such. So it's a sad reality.
I'm
And
a garbage geek. I admit it. I went to San Francisco for a holiday and I visited the recycling center. I love learning about this stuff. Recology is doing a great job in San Francisco. In the city center, they have a population of 1 million people, but their strategy is the same as Kamikatsu, the zero waste town, how they're trying to separate everything. But the biggest difference, which I hope all places in Japan will implement, is mandatory composting. Mandatory
yeah.
composting reduces waste immediately by 30%. And I was really skeptical, but then I saw it in San Francisco. I saw it in Kamikatsu. I tried it in my house. And even in my house, it reduced how much waste we were putting as burnable by 1/3. And that's what San Francisco found, 30% less. That's what Kamikatsu found. So imagine how much carbon we would reduce. All the garbage trucks would have less weight, less gas they need to go to and from neighborhoods to the incinerators. Incinerators would need less energy to burn the garbage, right? And it helps the soil, right? Goes back to nature. So I would love to see more mandatory composting in Japan.
I'm with you. Like I've been pushing for, for mandatory compost. Like I'm jealous of Korea actually having to impose, that kind of like tax on
Isn't that interesting?
composting.
If for anybody who doesn't know, in Korea, you in the cities, you take your waste and you pay with a garbage card, and you pay by the weight of your food waste. And so the less food waste you have, the less you pay. And so it incentivizes people to waste less food, to have less garbage. I thought that was really innovative. I'd be really interested to see how it works Are people trying to cheat the system, or is it actually effective, right? It's always good to reassess after a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I did propose, like compost so many times, but I guess it's just a Japanese mentality, right? Like
No,
that,
I
like
mean,
oh, like
I had the
it's
chance to meet a
mm,
Hiroshima garbage manager.
yeah,
And he said, "Oh, I think composting is amazing. Like we should definitely do it." But it's that change in mindset from the government, the leadership, to make the investment for how to do it. Because everybody has the community garbage areas, right? So how would you do a composting area? In San Francisco, everybody has their own bins in front of the house. So it's just your compost and then it's picked up by the garbage truck. So it's a different situation, right? We have to
yeah,
really kind of localize each area.
definitely. And like like you have to think about Tokyo is like super condensed, and they're very like when I spoke to the city, like they were very nervous about the smells and like the bugs and such, like the the risks that they need to take, the complaints from the neighbors, imaginary neighbors, I would say, because I don't know where these voices are coming from, but that was their excuse, like like oh we considered it, but yeah, like people don't want it, like because of the smells and the bugs. I'm like, there's so many ways to actually like not have the smells and the bugs, like like
Yeah.
this
In fact,
composting is like yeah,
I talked with, I know that you're connected to James Hollow as well,
yeah,
Fabric.
yeah, yeah.
And I did short videos with him when I visited his office in Nakameguro. And so
Hello.
that's a similar area. And they're doing worm composting, another kind of composting where the bags are picked up in these felt bags. There are solutions,
Hmm.
already in place. It's just whether it can be scaled, right? Is one of the big questions, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I think we've talked about the repair cafes, the repair
Ah,
workshops. Such a great initiative. Can you talk about that?
yeah, so now I'm working with through Komi no Gakko, like I'm working with Kameoka City, the city that I am in, on their like green learning programs and such. So this city is really unique because they're actually trying really hard to be environmentally friendly. So they've banned like plastic bags. So there's no plastic bags in the supermarkets or anything here, and they're really trying to make a difference by actually incentivizing for people to actually do more repairs instead of recycling. They see more opportunities in repairing and actually like elongating the life cycle of the product. So they're gonna we're going to be running it's already up and running, but every 28th of the month, like we have this repair cafe that anyone can actually come and stop by with whatever items that they want to repair, like whether it be clothes or furnitures or anything. Like they come, and then um, whoever that's there, like we kind of like see it and try to like fix it somehow. We have tools, and we have some of the experts, like the furniture company, like woodcraft person maker, or like someone who's like really good at sewing and such. And it's a fun event, and that's going to happen every 28th, and then on every 18th of the month, like we also are going to be running like green learning programs. So the idea is to actually educate people on how recycling works and such. So potentially, this is just an idea, it's not confirmed, but potentially maybe like get unwanted clothes, and then we'll make a thread out of it, and then we'll actually create something out of it. Or like plastic, like we gather plastic and then we actually repurpose it and make a tumbler holder, like a cup holder or something. We do it with Starbucks already, so maybe do that with the Kamioka citizens and such. So just to raise awareness about like how the waste is flows, and also how you can repurpose or repair and such. Yeah.
And also to see how difficult things are to reuse or repair. Oh, maybe we shouldn't use so much of that. Maybe I won't buy that next time because it's really difficult to get rid of. It's really difficult to reuse. Kamikatsu almost always talks about the most difficult thing is the mixed material.
Yeah, yeah.
The heated rugs, which are filled with electrical wires, plastic wires, and then you've got fabric. And to really try to reuse or even recycle any of that, you have to take it all apart. So they do seminars bringing the designers of the products in to make them take it apart. And then they realize, hey, maybe this is not the best design. Maybe we should make it easier to take apart and dispose of or reuse in some way, right? We've got Tova here from LinkedIn. Great to see you, Tova. She said, such
Hi,
a
Tova.
brilliant idea. Fantastic to have more repair cafes, repair mindset, right?
Definitely. Yeah, it's quite amazing because like the last time, like this someone who I knew, like I asked him to come, we're doing this repair cafe, and like he brought this like necktie, and the loop that you put the tie, the back part of the tie was off, and it's just a matter of just sewing that bit. But he was like, oh, I didn't know what to do, so I was gonna throw it away. I'm like, that's just little tiny sewing. But he was about to throw it away, so he was really like delighted that he can actually wear it again. So I'm glad that I actually asked him to come, because it's those people that I want them to realize that it's just that little tiny extra bit that you just have to do to maintain that item for a longer time.
Yeah. I think it's just the lack of thinking that there is an option, because we are bombarded every day with marketing about buy and then just throw it away, buy a new one. Is yours old? Buy a new one. The new to throw it away and stop thinking about it mindset is the most common, right? So of course people don't really think, oh, I really like this. Oh, it's just a small problem. Oh, I can repair it. It's like a new idea, right?
Yeah. I usually say, like being circular is more like a survival skill, like upgrading your survival skill, because like you're being more resourceful, like getting ideas of, oh, what can I do with this like item or broken item, like how can I repair this, or how can I repurpose this? Like those are really about survival. Like if things happen and you only have like the items in front of you, what are you gonna do, And by having that kind of circular mindset, like you are going to be resourceful and you have a better chance in surviving if anything happens. So that's the approach that I'm taking to actually sell to people, like we have lots of natural disasters, and you won't have like Daiso all the time, like the 100 yen store you cannot go, it might shut down. Like what are you going to do? Like why don't you become resourceful?
Yeah, that's great. When people are asking you, like as a business or even as individuals, what's something they can do to get started to have a more sustainable lifestyle or a more sustainable business? Is there one thing that you would suggest to get started on, some easy change that people could do?
The individual business.
Both or either. You choose. So, for example, okay, if you're talking with a business, you could ask, are you using plastic water bottles? What's something they could do instead of plastic water bottles?
Yeah,
I
like
really put you on the spot here.
yeah, like I'm more about reducing the consumption. I mean,
Yeah, right?
in the first place,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm more about, kind of like thinking about whether decide how you're going to take care of the item that you're going to buy. Like, are you,
Or not have to buy it.
yeah, not have
Right?
to buy
So
it. And
that could be the first option. Maybe not buy plastic water bottles for your hotel. Why not aluminum? Why not glass, which has a higher rate of actually being recycled in Japan? Or even better, have a filtered water,
Exactly, yeah.
refillable bottle that you can have with your hotel brand on it to really even reduce the need. So you don't have to buy it in the first place, and then you don't have to waste it, right? And it elevates your brand, and the visitors usually like it better, right? The customers do. So little strategies like that, right?
Yeah, so like I feel like the challenge that we all have is that we don't have this like ecosystem thinking of like how how the material is produced and how it's going to be wasted and such like when so as we talked about, you know, like people are only see what's in front of them and they don't really think about, you know, like the before and after of it. So having that mindset actually would actually deter you and have pause before buying. So I would like to actually, you know, for people to be more conscious about that. So, you know, before you buy, like, is this really necessary? And then, you know, is there an alternative? Like, you know, what do you have in the house that you can actually repurpose it for? And then afterwards, if you actually going to buy that item, you know, like, so like if, you know, you cannot use it for the purpose that you had, like how can you repurpose it or do something else with it, you know?
Or buy it secondhand is another option, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But
Yeah.
I think what you do by showing the different ways, by bringing your own chopsticks, right? By bringing your own cup, by bringing your own bottle, by choosing the vegan option, you're also showing how you can do strategies, right? So when you're in a meeting or in a seminar, like just pointing out, oh, today I brought my own chopsticks and my own bag and my own bottle. And these are little things you could do. Like just a quick mention. You don't have to like lecture anybody about it, right? But I think you just modeling these behaviors is also really a wonderful way to inspire people, right?
Yeah, I do enjoy when, you know, like it sparks conversation about, oh, like you have your own chopsticks and or like, you know, like I get from my friends like, oh, like I brought my own chopstick because I knew that I was gonna see you. I'm like, okay. I'm glad I inspired you to actually, you know, change your behavior. But yeah, I'm like those are my kind of way to like non-verbally kind of like persuade people to realize about little things and yeah,
Yeah.
it
Have you ever
works.
had anyone who meets you or sees you and then tries to hide something? And they're like, "Oh no, it's Elly. I'm using like a plastic water bottle. I'm so sorry." You know, like people actually apologize to me
I
sometimes. I'm
know.
like, "Don't apologize. There's so little choices, right?" The reality is we have so few choices. I don't blame anyone for using plastic or buying plastic water bottles. That is so hard still, right? But
Yeah,
there are strategies, there are options if you're looking for them. And so just praising the wonderful ideas, praising the successful strategies, that's the more like positive, optimistic view. It seems to work better, right?
definitely. Like food packaging is just really really too much in Japan, and you know a lot of the foreigners come here, they're like, whoa, so much plastic. But yeah, like, you know, as much as you want to be zero waste, like if you're living in Japan, it's really hard to be zero waste. But you know, little by little, we're progressing, and you know, by voicing the inconvenience of, you know, actually separating the plastic and actually taking off the labels and then put it in the recycling bins, and that's actually troublesome. So like raising those voices um, actually helps for the manufacturers and the wholesalers and such to actually change their designs and such. So I think little by little, you know, the consumers are actually reevaluating that the current status and current way of how we live. And
I love to hear
yeah,
that you're hopeful. That's wonderful.
I think
Do you have
so.
any projects coming up you want to talk about, or do you have any hope for the next 5 years in Japan? Things that you would really like to see happen or change in terms of sustainability or sustainable business or development? Anything that stands out?
Yeah, like the projects coming out is definitely like the one that I mentioned about like autonomy that we're gonna be doing the cultural immersion program to bring to inspire the businesses to change to sustainable, like to get inspiration out of the craftsmen and such in Japan. And so that's one of the projects. And the card games and such, like we still do it for corporates or like kids and such. So those are also a way to actually raise awareness. And the Finland program and pretty much all of my educational programs are going to be like, going forward as well.
And you're also teaching or learning tea ceremony and kintsugi yourself, right?
Yeah, like I do kintsugi. I have the bowl. Yep. Yes, I do kintsugi. I teach as well, and tea ceremony as well. I'm trying to become a licensed professor for that, and so I can teach and just for people to understand the Japanese culture, and also like there's a lot of elements of sustainability in both kintsugi and tea ceremony. So it's another way for me to actually inspire people about how to live circular and how to live sustainably.
But also how to live with beauty, how to preserve
Definitely.
traditional culture, right?
Yeah.
Kintsugi is something a lot of visitors often comment on and say, "Where can I buy kintsugi pottery?" And I'm like, "You can't. Usually it's like a beloved piece of pottery. It breaks, so you repair it, so you can keep it." But I think there's actually a market for kintsugi, beautifully repaired pottery for the visitors. They love the idea of kintsugi, and they often don't have a chance to do a workshop while they're here. So what a nice thing that you're starting to teach. That's lovely.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So we've talked about so much. Oh, there was one more thing, getting community agriculture programs. You want to talk quickly about that? Community supported agriculture.
It's gonna take a little bit long.
Okay.
Yeah, but the
Maybe next time. We'll talk about that next time. But agriculture, of course, having your own food resources, the big decline in farmers in Japan. So it's great to encourage more people to grow their own food where they live. There's so much potential for that. So I'm so glad that's one of the wonderful projects you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you so much, Elly, for joining and for sharing all your wonderful projects. Best of luck with all your projects this year. Maybe we can do another talk maybe in a year's time, and you can tell us about your new projects and how things have been going.
Thank you, Joy. It was such a pleasure talking to you. It was so much fun. Thank you so much.
Oh, good. All right. Have a good day, everyone. See you next time. Take care.
Bye.
Advice for future leaders, how to get started?
I would say think big, but start super small. In many cases, having spoken to many young people, I work at universities, at schools, all these things, people often get stuck at that first step. They have a big vision, but they don't know what to do. So what I would try and do is just take the tiniest step to get the ball rolling and just keep that going again and again and again. So that's one thing I'd say is think big, but start super small, tiniest step you can take. And secondly is to really have fun. You mentioned that our motto is less plastic, more fun. If you can find nice people, like fun people, try and make it an enjoyable experience. That will help set up things for the long term as well, and that will keep you happy and engaged over the long run. So those are two pieces of advice, as well as take care of yourself. Make sure you don't burn out. I've seen enough burnout in the social and environmental space. So let's have fun and look after ourselves too, while caring for people, planet, and everything else is important.
Hi, everyone. Good morning and welcome. This is Seek Sustainable Japan. I am JJWalsh in Hiroshima, and I have the pleasure to have the wonderful Robin Lewis with me. Thank you so much for joining, Robin.
Good morning. Happy Earth Day. Thanks so much.
Happy Earth Day. What a perfect day to talk with you.
Absolutely.
the amazing things that you're doing. Now, you are the co-founder of MyMizu, co-founder Social Innovation Japan. You're also doing a lot of education as well as apps, the technical side, the people side, people, planet, profit, and balance. Where did it all come from? Can you remind us? Where was your inspiration? Is it as a kid? Something sparked in you?
I think one of the big turning points for me was the Great East Japan earthquake. So my mother's Japanese, my father's from the UK. And as a teenager, I had quite a strong desire to make a difference in the world. But I was really lacking confidence. I didn't know what to do, how to do it. I didn't really believe in my ability to make change. I studied business at university because I was told that if I studied business, that I would make it somehow, and I would be successful, and I had a good time. But I think the one thing that I was quite upset about was that it was always talking about maximizing profits and maximizing what's known as shareholder value. There wasn't really much conversation about how do we use marketing, investment, consumer psychology, all of these things to create positive change. So I left university kind of with this itch to use the skills that I'd learned at university to solve real world problems. And just as I was about to graduate, there was the Great East Japan earthquake in 2011. My mother's family is originally from the Tohoku area, from the Sendai area. And so that led me to fly from the UK back to Japan and volunteer in the areas affected by the tsunami. And then that led to a whole cascading kind of career in social impact, sustainability, green tech, and all of those things that you mentioned.
It comes from a need and personal experience, seeing where things are lacking, having your education in business, and then seeing, wait a second, this is only about profits. What about the people? What about the planet? Right?
Exactly.
I'm back teaching at University of Kitakyushu once a week, and I'm so happy to see that they are offering refill stations there. That was one of your many projects. So that was exciting to see. But teaching business, teaching marketing, and business case studies, of course, having that input of what is the sustainability side? What are businesses doing to balance these strategies? Now, of course, these are things you're dealing with every day with all your consulting and education, right?
Yeah, it's a constant balance to try and strike. And when I was at university, this is 15 years ago now, there was often a conversation about, do you pursue profit or purpose? And what I'm really happy to see is over the past 15 years, those two have very much merged in many cases. That doesn't mean you have to be a social entrepreneur. It means you can also be a social intrapreneur. You can join a big company, you can create new initiatives, create new products, new services that address problems. And when I look at Japan specifically, one of the things that I feel brings the most hope for the environment, for society, is the power of Japanese companies to actually do good, right? I'm very fortunate to speak to many passionate and driven people inside big companies who want to do exciting things and want to use their human capital, financial capital, their knowledge, all the things they have to drive meaningful change. And I think that's a really powerful thing, especially in Japan, where companies are so influential, so deeply rooted in history and culture and so on.
For sure. You've written some great articles on Medium. I'm a big fan. You've got Stop Calling Social Impact Organizations Nonprofit. So there's the kind of the core of what you're doing. It's not just about crowdfunding. It's not just about donations. It's moving beyond the nonprofit idea. Can you talk about that just a couple minutes?
Yeah. So my qualm with the term nonprofit is that the nonprofit industry is the only thing that you name by what it's not. You know, we don't say it's a very strange way of categorizing or labeling something. So rather than non-profit, we can be for impact, we can be purpose aligned. I think rather than focusing what is not there, I think it's good to focus on what is there and what drives the organization. Similarly, I think one thing that has come up in several times in conversation has been that people often mistake or misunderstand the financial structure or the way that nonprofits are run. As a nonprofit, one of which I run, we still have to generate revenue. We still have to pay salaries and pay the office and pay the taxes and everything. So we can't just be fully reliant on donations and things. We have to be, very innovative, and we still have to make money to make our ends meet. But of course, the end goal is to make impact and solve a tangible problem.
I'm just adding a link to your Medium page.
Oh, thank you.
I noticed you haven't written recently. You're very busy. You've had a baby, so that's a new big change. Are you feeling more motivated to work on all the great projects you're doing? More of a future focus now that you have this personal little person as an inspiration for the future? Has that changed at all?
What's interesting is I don't think I fully formed or fully processed how much having our daughter has changed my outlook just yet. We're kind of still in the thick of it. She's about to become 4 months old. And so you can probably see from these bags under my eyes, I'm still very much in the it's the best thing ever. I absolutely love it, but I haven't fully processed how it's impacted me. What I would say though, is that I think it's made me more aware of balance. In my 20s, I'm now in my latter half of my 30s. In my 20s, I was so driven to achieve things and make things and create things, and I still love that. But now, especially with the birth of our daughter, I feel a much stronger need to be very grounded, to prioritize my family. That is my absolute priority right now, is to be there for my daughter, my partner, and be hopefully a good dad and a good husband as well. So I think still very much driven and still very, I want to get things done and change things, but I also feel even stronger need to be here and be a good father as well.
And finding a balance, right? Work-life balance, making more time for yourself and your family, which is often a lot of people doing startups or especially passion-led businesses.
Yeah.
Burnout is a real situation, right?
Absolutely. And this is something I'm so passionate about, because as you say, especially within the social entrepreneur, activist or nonprofit space, people are so driven by what they do that they often forget that care starts at home, right? You have to have self-care, you have to sleep well, eat well, move well, all those things. And that can help you to make an impact, not just for the next year, but for the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years, because social change is not a sprint, it's a marathon. We need to be in the long term. So something I feel super passionate about. And one thing that we did, was it last year, that I want to do again very soon, is we organized a hiking day for social entrepreneurs and activists. And the idea was to slow down. Everything right now is about acceleration. Let's accelerate impact and scale and all these things, which is important. But I actually think it's more important to decelerate, to slow down sometimes, and really just figure out, are we going in the right direction? Is this where we want to be? Where are we all heading? And to make sure that we're all aligned. So I loved doing that gathering of people. We went hiking in Kamakura, in the Kamakura Alps. And I want to do more of that stuff to help people slow down, to ultimately, have a great impact and enjoy their time as well.
Absolutely. And then reconnecting to nature, being in nature helps you feel refreshed and you got full of energy to go back to work, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah.
But turning off is hard, right? Like now we're connected so many ways. Do you have strategies like turning off all your devices at a certain time, or how do you do that?
This is something I struggle with a lot. I'm not going to lie. What I have been doing sometimes recently is not having my phone in my bedroom. So last year I did a 10-day intensive meditation retreat called Vipassana, which is pretty well known. As one in Kyoto, one in Chiba. And one of the things that I loved most about that 10-day silent retreat, you can't speak to anyone, you can't make eye contact, you can't write, there's no reading, nothing. You're just meditating 10 hours a day. One of the things I loved about that is there was no phones, no technology, no smartwatches, and it was such a good chance to reconnect. It was very challenging. I got pretty bored, I'm not going to lie, but I loved the process and I loved that part of it.
That's awesome. Now, one of the great reasons to talk to you today is talking about 5 years of MyMizu. Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's
And you just had a 5-year report in Japanese listing all the key things over the 5 years. It must feel amazing. Good job.
yeah. Well, thank you. No, it's, you know, what's funny is that we started MyMizu as an experiment. You know, I guess the backstory, just to shed a bit of light here, is that we started Social Innovation Japan, which is the organization running MyMizu, the platform, in 2017. So we're actually approaching our 8th birthday as Social Innovation Japan. And originally, our idea was to bring people together and to basically create change with people. And that was one of our main goals. And so we started doing events, we started doing trainings, we started doing events at companies, like workshops and things as well. And then we had this need, this urge to start creating change around plastic waste, because Mariko and I, my co-founder, my partner, went to Okinawa. We saw so much waste, obviously not just in Okinawa, it's all over the place. But we felt a real need, a real opportunity to make something that's creative using technology, but most importantly, that's co-created with people. You know, I mentioned, going back to my own story, that as a teenager, I was really low on confidence. Even up to university, I had I felt like I had no agency over where I was going or what I was doing. And so one of my passions, one of my life goals now, is to work with people to help them be part of the solution and be an active member of the environmental and social solution as well. So that's why we started MyMizu back in 2019. And it was an experiment. We just thought there's an exciting opportunity. We went from idea to launch in about 2 months, 3 months, very quick. And now it's been over 5 years, and we've done all these things thanks to our community. So it's been a very rich, enriching, and challenging sometimes 5 years, but we've absolutely loved it.
That's amazing. Let's talk about the top 8 metrics. So number of downloads, you have 400,000 or more, 203,000 refill spots, 2,500 or more refill partners, 50 countries, people who have been posting information on the spots, more than 4,500, event speaker attendees, 50,000, media coverage, 3,000, and social media, 20,000. Amazing.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of mind-boggling how such a simple idea has gone so far. But I also think that the reason it has traveled so far was because of the simplicity of the idea. One of the things I'm, again, passionate about is creating ways to make people understand and take action on quite complicated things. And when we talk about the climate crisis, for example, it is often quite technical and quite complicated. CO2 emissions, methane emissions, sea level rise, all these things are very important, but also quite difficult and quite maybe far away for a lot of people. So our goal was, can we use the plastic bottle as an entry way, or like what do they call it? A gateway drug, in a good way, a gateway drug to a more, I guess, profound sustainable transition within people. So that was our initial thinking, was to use the plastic bottle as a hook and then work with people, create change together with our crowdsourced and co-created platform.
And it seems like such a simple, straightforward, no-brainer idea, but it's hard to get people to make the step. You've been working with municipalities, businesses, a lot of students, universities are starting to have refill stations. So coming at it from lots of different perspectives seems to be working well for the project. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, one of our core values, our core approaches, is to work with as many different parts of society as possible. This is one of the things I'm most grateful for, is the fact that we work with schools, we work with universities, we work with a lot of city governments, we work with prefectural governments, including Kitakyushu, which you just mentioned. We also work with a lot of big brands, from IKEA to Audi to Patagonia, to all of our really valued strategic partners. We call these very valued companies that support our work. So we have this very broad range of partners, and that's also a key part of creating what we call systems change. If we want to change the system away from single use and really make the default a more sustainable option, we have to work with absolutely everyone. We cannot do it alone. So that's why we do that. And that's also probably part of the reason why MyMizu has again reached the distances that it has.
Do you find like, is one style of strategy seem to be working, or one style seems to be a big hurdle? Like, you did some great projects with Kobe. Kobe City seems really on board with the municipality trying to get refill spots. Kamioka in Kyoto. But then working with universities, making posters with students. Is there one way that it seems to drive the motivation to create refill spots or change? The app, you've got any of one direction you found this is a little bit harder than the other directions, or this is a little bit easier?
You know, one thing I would say is that I don't have a technical background, just to be clear. We have this MyMizu app. It's as you mentioned, it's been downloaded over 400,000 times now. We have many tens of thousands of people using it every month. I don't have a technical background. That's all done by our CTO, Laurie Kate, absolutely amazing individual who's been there from day zero. We have an actually majority female, majority woman tech team as well, which is quite rare. We're super grateful for. We have a very talented tech team doing all of that stuff. My background is more in communications and more in storytelling, and I think from day zero back in 2019, we invested lots of time, lots of energy into telling the story of why is this important. And we also made it fun. We chose to make it a positive, and rather than pushing a negative message like, hey, you know, we're facing this massive crisis, we have to do something, pulling with a more compelling and a positive vision of what's possible if we all work together. So to answer your question, what I'd say is that the investment in communications has been really important. And what's been so exciting about that is that we have now young people in universities who are literally making their own MyMizu posters and sticking them in their campuses. We have elementary school students in Okinawa, again, making their own like stickers, making their own materials, and going out into their local areas and speaking to the cafes and restaurants to try and get them to join. So we have people essentially taking ownership over MyMizu, which is kind of the whole point. This is not something that we made for you. It's something that we all make together. And seeing those bits of creativity of people making videos, stickers, posters. You know, funny story, I was driving in Okinawa in 2021 along this highway, and suddenly, out of nowhere, on the left-hand side of the car, quite a nice blue skies day, I saw a ginormous series of MyMizu flags. Like, you know, those ginormous flags they have out cafes, and I'd never seen this, and obviously I didn't make it, so I was like, "What is this?" So I pulled over, went into the cafe, and asked the owners, and they said, "Listen, we just really love the concept, the vision of MyMizu, and so we've just made all these flags, and we've plastered them all over the highway." And it's that kind of thing that I find so powerful and compelling, because when it's not driven by us anymore, when it's driven by the community, then I think that's how you get growth and impact as well.
That's amazing. Of course, MyMizu is a free app to use.
Yeah.
You do have some corporate sponsors who do collaborative work with you. But a lot of people might be wondering, like, how do you make a business from a free app? Can you touch on that just a little bit?
Sure. So we have what are called strategic partners, who are companies who support MyMizu annually, essentially similar to a sponsorship model. They can also promote their products. Many of them are water-related companies, so that's a natural fit. Secondly, we sell bottles as well. We do bottle sales, both individual MyMizu bottles, but also we sell, thank you very much for that, we also sell collaboration bottles. So, for example, with Uber Eats, with Johnson & Johnson, with various companies, we make these collaboration bottles and provide them to their teams and their people. Thirdly, we work with local governments, and there is a paid part of that where we're helping them to reduce plastic waste, which is a cost for them, and we're helping to promote their water infrastructure too. So we do get some budget from local governments. We have many individual donors who are extremely valuable for us, who support MyMizu on a monthly basis. Thank you so much for joining and for also sharing that as well. And we also have a lot of our work is with companies doing trainings, workshops, and all those things. So we also get revenue from that. So there's several different revenue streams, but it took a while to get there. It's a free platform. It's always hard to monetize things, and we also didn't want to have random crypto ads and or these advertisements in the app. So we've had to be creative, but we've made it work from now. One of the things, we also get grants as a philanthropic, as a social venture. We're allowed both grants, and we can do kind of consulting and work for companies. And so one of our big grants this year was from Google, which has really supported our development of the app and so on. So we have several revenue streams, and they're the key ones.
That's awesome. That I know that you did crowdfunding in the beginning.
Yes.
Creating revenue streams over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Where do you see MyMizu in the next 5 years? Any big vision forward?
Yeah, I mean, what's really exciting now is I see two frontiers. One is, it's not just about plastic waste now. What we're doing is we're building a part of the social infrastructure in Japan and other countries. Water is so critical, not just for reducing plastic waste with all these refill stations. It's also really important for public health during summer. As you know, it gets unbelievably hot during summer, and every year it's going to be even hotter. So we see a big opportunity to use the MyMizu social infrastructure to solve a big public health problem, which is people collapsing, and in some cases, in some tragic cases, dying from dehydration and heat stroke in the summer. So we are now really turning towards how do we leverage this infrastructure that we've built together to solve that problem. That's one. Secondly, with the second frontier is inbound tourism. This is another thing that you're very knowledgeable about. There's been a huge boom recently, and we have a lot of travelers using MyMizu, which I'm super happy about. And what's great about that is that thanks to people like you, Joy, you've been promoting MyMizu through your various channels for many years. People find out about MyMizu, they use it while they're in Japan, they contribute, and then they take it back. So we now have people across 50 countries adding information, adding data, adding photos, and using the platform. So the idea is that we will eventually, hopefully, expand across the world and continue to make this social infrastructure, which sounds very boring, this social infrastructure, but it's just a way to create a new social system to address a serious environmental and social problem as well.
It's creating a positive community.
Exactly.
And I'm adding places to refill when I do guided tours. I'm adding, special stickers. You guys need a mascot. I think you need a MyMizu mascot. You need to create something cute, and then we know that captures attention in Japan too, right?
Absolutely. That's on the to-do list for year 6 and 7, I think.
Yeah, right. But adding these things to tourism, definitely a lot of inbound travelers are bringing their bottles.
Yeah.
And then I'm learning which hotels are offering refill bottles. Some of the cruise ships are giving their guests refill bottles to go when they visit locations.
Yeah.
That's awesome, right? So those would be great collaborators for using the MyMizu app as well. Yeah. I just read in the newspaper today that the government is starting to give alerts when there's a problem with the heat stroke is real, and then collaborating in that way with or suggesting MyMizu.
Yeah.
Why not have it in all stations? I always ask about it at every information center. Where can I fill up? Yeah. And 5 years ago, people would say, go fill up in the toilet. And I was like, no. And then recently they're like, shall I fill up for you? Yeah. And that's a step in the right direction. But having a refill station is so important, because what we're seeing in the hotter months, all the drink machines are sold out.
Yeah.
So if you're not having another option, the only option is to buy a drink.
Yeah.
That's a health issue.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot more health issues, right?
And it's funny you mentioned the filling the bottle in the toilet. One of the reasons I started MyMizu is because as a student, I did a year abroad in Japan at a university in Tokyo, and I had that exact challenge. I had this bottle that was like so gross because I'd been using it for years and years and years, and there was nowhere to refill. So my go-to move was to go to 7-Eleven or Lawson or Family Mart or wherever, and just pretend to buy something. Like walking out, like look at things, like, oh, this looks really nice, and I'd just sneak off into the toilet and refill. But the sinks are also not well designed for that. So without getting into the details, I had to do a lot of creative moves to refill my bottle in the toilet. And that's why, if that's the only option, it's or a plastic bottle, then there has to be a better option. That's why we started MyMizu. Also, interestingly, going back to Japan and Japanese history, when you look at the Edo period of Japan, it was such a circular and environmentally friendly time here. People often say, sustainability is more advanced in Western countries and all these things. I would actually argue that Japan is one of the societies where sustainability is ingrained the deepest. When you look at Satoyama, look at Satoumi, Mottainai, the Edo period also had a lot of circularity. For example, even human waste used to be captured and used as fertilizer on fields, right? Everything was used and had a second life. So going back to water, what's so interesting is when you speak to people in their, let's say, 60s or 70s or sometimes younger, people will say that, yeah, water used to be for everyone. It used to be a public good. It was if everyone was sharing. And then obviously we had privatization and various, beverage companies making big moves and making lots of money, which is unfortunately part of the challenge. And now we want to go back and we say, look, it should be everyone's thing. Water is a human right in many cases, and we want to kind of return it to the people through people power, through co-creation, through community. That's what we're doing.
Absolutely. And you've written a great article about Sampo Yoshi
Yeah.
and the idea of businesses doing, as part of the business, doing community service. And this fits in so beautifully with Social Innovation Japan, but of course, MyMizu as well. That a business, not only, I love talking about this with visitors, how a lot of businesses, or you see a rickshaw business, they go and clean Miyajima Island, the route. They'll pick up trash before they start business for that day. And a lot of businesses do that. So offering free water, which should be a human right, clean water, which is wonderful. In Hiroshima, we have wonderful sake. So we have wonderful water, like most of Japan. Tap water is brilliant, right?
Yeah.
So adding that as part of your business strategy, doing good for the customer, but also doing good for the community, right?
One of my favorite stories, having spoken to many of what we call refill partners. Refill partners are the cafes, the shops, the restaurants that join our network. There was one case where a young boy, I think he was maybe 5 or 6, maybe a bit older, used to walk to school by himself. And the mother or father would say bye-bye, and then they would walk by themselves to school, and they'd walk back home afterwards. And during the summer season, it got quite hot. So they were worried about what to do with this boy while he was walking on the way to school. And so I think it was the mother. The mother said, hey, there's this MyMizu station, MyMizu spot, a cafe on your way to school. So why don't you go in there? If you get thirsty, you can refill your bottle and come home and stay hydrated. And so apparently every day during summer, during the school period, this boy would go into the cafe, tiny little boy would be like, hey, can I have some water, please? And the cafe owners absolutely loved it because it's such a small thing to do, but it's so profound in terms of what it means for community, what it means for well-being, for collective well-being as well, to be able to look out for each other through the means of water. So there's a great thing with water, is that it does connect people in many ways, and that's also a really important part of what we do, is to create more community cohesion through this service.
That's awesome. I've had the similar interactions in Patagonia. And Muji. Because those are businesses in Japan that regularly offer free water refills for anyone who walks in. And I do it as part of my guiding. Oh, I got a refill, and
Yeah.
then my guests would do it too. But often you'll see elderly people from the community who come and refill, and the staff are like, please have a seat, sit down. And it's a way to also check up on how they're doing and talk with them. We're having a big problem in Japan with people dying alone at home. And these are people who are kind of dropping out of this community cohesion.
Yeah.
And then, like you talked about, getting kids to drop in on the way to school or the way home, and having that extra connection for kids too. So on both sides of people in groups who are kind of falling out of this community connection, which is so strong, or used to be, in most of Japan, right?
That's exactly it. And I think one exciting area of opportunity that we see is that the Ministry of Environment is actually setting up what's known as cooling shelters during the summer. And those who are most vulnerable in many cases to heat stroke and dehydration are kids and the elderly, right? In many cases. So the idea is to set up these spaces that are air conditioned, that have water, that you can sit down, you can have a quick chat with someone when it's really hot. And we want to get MyMizu, we want to actually get all those cooling shelters on MyMizu and provide MyMizu materials and things too, because again, it's such a big opportunity. And ultimately, we're not just reducing plastic, we're also saving lives in some cases too.
Absolutely. Let's talk for a minute about reducing plastic, though, because that is a wonderful part of the MyMizu philosophy. You wrote a great article about 7 myths about plastic in Japan, 7 surprising facts about plastic in Japan. Can you walk through us? I'll show it on the screen. You can walk through some of the points.
This I wrote a while ago, so I'm a little bit rusty, but I know that the key points. This, just to give a bit of backstory, I received a strawberry, which you can see in this photo. This photo went semi-viral, by the way, which I found quite interesting. There is one strawberry, obviously quite expensive, very tasty, mind you, very tasty, but it was covered, I think, in 6 pieces of plastic for one strawberry. And so I was writing about how receiving the strawberry led me down this path of looking into plastic waste, because oftentimes we say that if you just throw it in the recycling bin, then it gets recycled. The big myth, the number one thing that we like to discuss is that in many cases, recycling is not what we imagine. There's several types of recycling, but most of it, the majority, over 50% in Japan, is burnt, incinerated through a process called thermal recycling or energy recovery. The idea is that you're burning plastic and then using that heat energy to do things like heat pools and use for in other ways. So the number one myth, or the thing that I think is most misunderstood, is that if you throw something in the recycling bin, it comes back to life in something. In many cases, it doesn't. That's not to say that recycling is not important. It is an important part of the solution, but it is also the last resort, right? Reduce, reuse, recycle, the 3 R's. There's also 7 R's, 10 R's now, depending on who you speak to, but always the last resort is recycling. So if we can reduce or reuse or refuse, which is a really important, refusing first, that's much more impactful than throwing it in the recycling bin. We also export a lot of plastic waste to other countries, and so it is connected in many ways to human rights, because we export the waste that we can't handle to other countries, mainly in Southeast Asia, where they are, in some cases, there've been quite strong documentation of being dumped in marginalized communities and burnt and leading to a lot of health problems like respiratory issues and so on. So there are many issues around plastic waste, but the number one thing is to reduce from the very source and recycle as a last resort.
Isn't that crazy that highly technologically advanced, efficient countries like Japan, who is so good at managing all the waste, we're still exporting some of the plastics and creating problems in other parts of Asia. And it's a human rights issue, but it's also, as we have a new unsteady world order, it's also creating social problems which will create issues of conflict in the future. We want to be better right? We
Exactly.
want to rise above the status quo and just take care of our own trash.
Exactly.
And I think this is something a lot of people don't know still.
And I think since our last conversation several years ago, what I've been really excited about is seeing how many new circular products and systems there are. Just to name a few, like Meglu, the reusable containers, the reusable takeout container system. There's lots of other like reusable cups for coffee, and there's so many reusable systems now that are focusing on reduction, which is the most powerful thing to do. And yeah, it's been really cool to see so many new ideas and creations in this past few years, focusing on this issue.
And as an individual user, I'm always looking for new ways to cut down on plastic packaging.
Yeah.
But you know, when people visit and they feel awful having to buy so much plastic,
Yeah.
every time they shop at a convenience store, they have a big pile of plastic.
Yeah.
So they feel really uncomfortable about this. They love traveling in Japan, but this is a hard situation for a lot of travelers who are coming from places that don't use quite as much plastic now, right? It's changed a bit.
Absolutely. I think one powerful thing that people can do is, of course, it's the obvious ones like carry your own reusables, chopsticks, bags, bottles, all this stuff. That's very clear. But one thing that I think is not so talked about is feedback. And I mean positive feedback. When you go to a cafe or a restaurant or shop and they have, let's say, paper straws or metal or whatever it is, in many cases, that's actually more expensive for the cafe owners. And so if you just say one thing, which is, hey, I love what you've done here. I love the metal straws. I love the sustainable materials you're using. It means a lot to, I think, cafe owners and restaurant owners and so on. So that's one simple thing we can do, is provide positive feedback and encourage them and show them that their efforts are being appreciated as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Plastic bags, still an issue. Now, one of the places you're collaborating with is Kameoka in Kyoto. They actually banned plastic bags. Are they the only place in Japan to ban plastic bags yet?
I'm not sure what other places have. What happened a couple of years ago was that there's now a mandatory plastic bag charge for most retailers and supermarkets and convenience stores. So now you have to pay usually 3 yen or 5 yen for a plastic bag, similar to many other countries, including the UK as well. So there's been some legislative change, but they're still very prevalent. And if you go along the coastline, in many cases, you'll see plastic bags and bottles and all kinds of things too.
Yeah. You also organize cleanups, beach cleanups. We do as well.
Yeah.
Plastic bags, still something you see a lot of. On tours, especially, a lot of people like to visit bakeries. Japanese bakeries are amazing, right? But I'm asking the staff every time a group comes in with me, can we just have it on the tray and we're going to eat it here?
Yeah.
Because even those little plastic bags, which they give as a free service, that's unnecessary because we're going to eat it right now. So even asking politely in that way, that can help reduce. And hopefully that's getting back to the manager. Oh, maybe we'll offer a tray if people are eating here. You never know what influence your positive comments can have on a business, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a lot of things to say, but I'll just say yeah to that 100%.
Pet bottles are really the only choice right now in Japan for most drink machines. And that's really depressing to see because it's so few are actually recycled and reused in any way. Once they're recycled, most, like you said, are burned. This is a crazy statistic. I'm losing my language here. Sorry. 183 pet bottles per year per person in Japan.
Yeah, that may have changed. This article was a few years old, but there are several, I believe it's 23 billion now every year of plastic bottles being used in Japan, just Japan as well. What I would say pet bottles is actually the recycling rate is relatively high, but there is a percentage around, I think between 10 and 15% that's not recycled. So while there is a very high recycling rate of plastic bottles, it's still like the concept is still really important. How do we reuse, because people don't want necessarily the packaging, they want the inside. And there's a lot of beverage companies now who are trialing or looking at machines that can refill for reusable bottles. And so that's a really exciting new thing. That's I know a lot of beverage companies are working on too.
Well, you were collaborating with Kirin, and I got really excited that we might see refill drink machines in the future. Is that something that's possible? That would be great to see.
There is another company that we're working with who was doing a pilot program for a vending machine that was specifically for reusables. Yeah, watch this space in terms of announcements and things, but that is on the way. What I would say is that there is a company who has released a machine that washes reusable bottles, which is very exciting, because that's a problem that we heard from a lot of people, is that they use their reusable, but then there's no place to wash them in many cases. And so now, for example, I believe it's the Osaka Expo site, there is a actually reusable bottle machine that washes your bottle for you as well. So there's a lot of new innovations and creations coming along.
That's great. And that's actually a traditional machine that a lot of the soy sauce makers, sake makers, if it was a big bottle, they have, if you ever visit one of these breweries, they have these old factory machines that rewash and reuse the bottles. So it does exist. We could bring that back. Another thing is, if you ever see the Coke machines, the old style Coke machines with the glass bottle, you drink it there, you leave it there, it's washed and reused. Why not bring that back? That was working, you know?
Well, interestingly, I've seen machines like that at conferences, at big conferences. They have those machines now that are very fancy and nice looking, but they haven't been scaled to a bigger level with more availability. So there are some in conferences. It's a good thing.
That's great to see. And then trash areas. A lot of visitors comment how there's no trash cans anywhere. And I often talk about, well, this is a labor crunch issue, also a tidiness issue. If you can't keep emptying the trash cans, then overflowing trash can is worse than no trash can, right? So having places where people can, even after buying something, throw it away, it's a hassle to carry around your trash. So that's another advantage of MyMizu. You don't create any trash, right?
Exactly, yeah. So it makes it easier. And the more refill points we have, the easier it is for everyone, because there's just more options for people too. So
absolutely. And then you're talking here about how China's stopped accepting plastic waste from other countries. But there are still even less developed countries in Asia which are accepting it. You can understand it's a lot of money to turn away, but it's creating toxic areas where they live, right?
In some cases, yeah. And there is some new legislation around plastic waste and exports and moving them between countries. So things are changing, but it's the key issue is still that we are over-reliant on single use. And I'm not saying, it's not also quite as easy to say like plastic is the absolute devil. There are actually many environmental use cases for plastic. It's just the overconsumption, the over-reliance that's the challenge. And they can be easily substituted in many cases with much more sustainable options, like MyMizu, like Meglu, like Aikasa. There's so many other options out there.
Now, talking about the facilities themselves, that's often an argument I hear from people in Japan, that burning the plastic is creating energy. Have you heard this argument? You want to respond to that?
So that's thermal recycling, where you're using the plastic waste, you're burning it, and then you're using that heat energy in most cases to power other things and to heat up pools and all these things. But again, there's a lot of other ways to burn. So I think the key thing is just addressing the over-reliance on plastic, on single-use plastic. And you mentioned the soy sauce containers. Like back in my mother's generation, they would go around with soy sauce bottles to the soy sauce shop and get it refilled, right? So as I mentioned, Japan has a very strong understanding, and it's deeply ingrained in the society that there is a sustainable way to live. But for many reasons, for economic growth reasons, in the post-war period, there was a huge push for consumption, and many other influences has led to this much more disposable and single-use culture. But I'm again full of hope because I see so many new inventions, new creations, and a lot more awareness too of people making better decisions or more environmentally friendly decisions every day.
For sure. We have a wonderful, beautiful museum of garbage incinerator facility in Hiroshima. If you ever come down, we'll go and walk through together. It's amazing, beautiful design, and it doesn't smell, it doesn't make noise, but it's burning all of the city's trash of 1 million people. And a lot of it has plastic inside. So you have to use energy to make the fire. Of course, the fire makes some energy, but then what happens with the ash? Well, because it has plastic in it, you can't put it back to nature. So that's another issue. And the idea of the circular, right? Like, how do we source it? And then what happens to the end product? Those are often not thought about either, right?
Exactly.
Also, in Tokyo, you're running out of space, I heard, for landfill, right? So no landfill space is putting more pressure on these incinerators, but also landfill areas, right?
So that's it all points to the same direction, that we need to address overconsumption, which is also quite challenging because our current economic model is geared towards consuming GDP growth, economic growth as the key indicator. And there is now a lot more conversation around is there a healthier way to measure the success of a society more than GDP? And there's some talk about degrowth and all these other things, but yeah, it's a challenge because the fundamentals are still relatively extractive and not super environmentally friendly in many ways, because we do live on a finite planet, but we're aiming for this infinite growth of the economy.
For sure. I love your motto, less plastic, more fun. It's not just about plastic, but that's like a main driver of using MyMizu and promoting it, right?
Exactly, yeah. And the fun part is so important because when we launched back in 2019, we didn't really see that many engaging and positive options for people. So we thought, can we make it fun? Can we make it enjoyable? Can we organize fun events and get people to feel like they're participating in a game while saving plastic waste, reducing CO2 emissions, saving money as well for themselves? So that was a really important part of what we started with. And we've continued doing that. We've done collaborations with Nike, for example, where we did an integration between the Nike Run Club app and MyMizu. And we had a campaign where over the course of a month, the more you ran, the more you clocked your kilometers, your running miles, the more MyMizu and Nike water points we would install across Tokyo. So the idea was to make it fun, to make it enjoyable, to integrate things like arts, sports, other cultural events into this conversation, because that's how you can really get people who might not think about this on a daily basis to be involved and part of the solution.
That's awesome. You do a lot of campus activities, education. What's happening here with the campus card order activity?
So I believe this is the Climate Fresque workshop, which is a very popular, originally French workshop to help people understand the causes of the climate crisis and what they can do to tackle it. I think that was from our Campus Changemakers Summit. So every year we organize an event for students to come together to brainstorm ways to create more green and environmental campuses. The reason we did this was because we had a lot of emails and people reaching out to us from different universities and different high schools saying they want to reduce waste, they want to increase water points, they want to help make their campus more circular. And so we thought, rather than doing one-on-ones, helping everyone at once, why not bring the whole everyone together in one place and brainstorm and create solutions together? So that was the reason why we started doing the Campus Changemakers Summit, and that's one of our real key initiatives for young people that we do.
That's awesome. Now you have some other exciting new events coming up through Social Innovation Japan. Do you want to talk about your Helena Powers?
Yeah, so this is an exciting new program, and it's kind of going back to full circle, because I mentioned that the reason we launched Social Innovation Japan was to bring people together and to make solutions to environmental problems and social problems together. So we launched Helena Powers on International Women's Day this year, and the program is a women's entrepreneurship support program where over the course of 6 weeks, it's quite intense, we do essentially a process to help people go from idea to launch within 6 weeks. It's in partnership with Helena Rubinstein and L'Oreal, and we've had quite a few applicants. This is amazing. We had many applicants, and we're in the process of choosing the final cohort. But it's super exciting, and as I say, it's going full circle for us because we had a lot of people asking us to help launch their ideas, and now this is a way to get everyone together and again create solutions together too.
That's so good. I love your Manels Suck article. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a woman forward man,
Yeah.
promoting women in work in Japan and equal pay, equal opportunities, it's really important part of your brand, of course, as being a partner, you co-founder, co-partner in many ways. It's amazing to see, Robin. You're doing great work there.
Maybe I can just elaborate on that first.
Yes, please.
So since I think 2019 or 20, I've had a no manel policy. Manel is all male panel. And you can see from the photo there that a lot of conferences and events have, in many cases, panel discussions that are all men attending or speaking. And I noticed that a lot since 2019 and before then at major international conferences, but also smaller events too. And so I decided that, well, actually, I've accidentally taken part in a couple of manels where I turned up at the venue and I realized, oh wow, there's like 7 guys on the stage. And so having made that mistake myself because of lack of due diligence, I decided to make a no manel policy where myself and team members too will not generally take part in a panel discussion if there's not representation. Of course, gender is just one lens. There's many other lenses of which we can talk about diversity, but it's more of a symbolic policy to get people to understand that you can't have 6 guys on a stage talking about sustainable societies and all these things, because we're missing at least 50% of the population. So that's the no all male, no manel policy. And I'd encourage other people, other guys, or anyone to take that kind of policy on and be vocal about it as well, because it's super important.
That's awesome. I have, when I reach out to people to talk about things on the show, quite often I am very impressed when I contact a man who's like the official head, and he says, how about talking to this woman who's on our team and she's amazing? And I was like, yes, happy. Because even doing the talk show, I try to have a balance, 50% or 51 if I can, because that's the actual representation. But it's really hard. The status quo is men as leaders, men as experts, men in government, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, there's
what you're doing is important.
There's one website, I think is it She Speaks? There's a website in Japan that is specifically for women speakers, and it was set up by a friend of mine. I can't remember the exact name.
I think it's the woman who set up Code Chrysalis, which you also have worked with.
Right? Jan was started it, and I'm like completely blanking on the name, but it's a really good platform to find women speakers as well.
Yeah, I'll put the link below. I'll seek it out.
Thank you.
Robin, we've talked about a lot. We've only got a few minutes left. Is there anything we haven't touched on that you would like to say? Oh, put you on the spot there.
There's a lot. There's a lot to say. Well, first of all, it's Earth Day. So maybe we can wrap up with some action points and maybe a call to action for us as MyMizu. So I'll start with the call to action. We have a few events coming up. One is the Responsible Marché in the Impact Hub Tokyo. So we'll have a booth there I'm again blanking on the date, but I think it's in May. It's a weekend in May. So please come along to that. It's a whole market full of sustainable and environmental products and companies that are showcasing their materials in Impact Hub Tokyo. So we'll be there. And then, yeah, we're also, I think we'll be hiring again soon. So if I think we're going to be looking for a operations support or admin role. So please follow our social media and stay tuned. If anyone would like to connect with me, please find me on LinkedIn. It's Robin Takashi Lewis. Feel free to reach out, and I'd be super happy to connect. And in terms of things we can do, one thing that I think is super important, and I mentioned before, is also looking after ourselves, and this connection between well-being and sustainability is increasingly being talked about, but I think there needs to be a bit more conversation about that. We need to be financially well, we need to be spiritually well, physically well, mentally well. So one thing that I try and do, having borrowed this from another much wiser friend than me, is to try and move well, eat well, sleep well, connect well every day in some form. Make sure the base is there, and then that helps me, sets me up nicely to take on environmental problems, social problems, many of which are, there's quite a few big ups and downs and things. Because as I mentioned, I really believe that social change is not a sprint, it's a marathon. We have to be in it for the long term. So please look after yourself, be compassionate, and have an amazing Earth Day. On top of all the other things that we can do, from reducing plastic to shifting our banks, right? The banks that we use in many cases have quite strong footprints with the fossil fuel industry. Your investments, the choices that we make at the supermarket, all these things are super important. But I think the key thing is also to look after yourself and be compassionate so that we can be in it for the long haul.
That's awesome. Also, you're such a leader, Robin. You must get working with young people all the time. What advice would you give for future leaders, people who are passionate about helping the environment, helping their community? Any advice for future leaders, how to get started?
I would say think big, but start super small. In many cases, having spoken to many, many, many young people, I work at universities, at schools, all these things, people often get stuck at that first step. They have a big vision, but they don't know what to do. So what I would try and do is just take the tiniest step to get the ball rolling, and just keep that going again and again and again. So that's one thing I'd say, is think big, but start super small, tiniest step you can take. And secondly, is to really have fun. You mentioned that our motto is less plastic, more fun. If you can find nice people, like fun people, try and make it an enjoyable experience. That will help set up things for the long term as well, and that'll keep you happy and engaged over the long run. So those are two pieces of advice, as well as take care of yourself. Make sure you don't burn out. I've seen enough burnout in the social and environmental space. So let's have fun and look after ourselves too, while caring for people, planet, and everything else is important.
That's awesome. And of course, be part of the community.
Yeah.
Join the cleanup events, join as a member of MyMizu, go to Social Innovation Japan events. You can network, you can really create a stronger community, which helps you launch your ideas too.
Exactly.
These people are happy to support you, right?
Yeah, but yeah, please, if anyone's interested in MyMizu, please check out our website, our social media. We have all the info there, and yeah, we're hopefully going to take over the world with free and plastic-free water. So please join us as well.
That's awesome. Less plastic, more fun. Join your community, connect, think positive. We need optimism to have hope, to have better innovation, right?
Absolutely, very much so.
Thank you so much, Robin. That was great talking with you.
Thank you. Happy Earth Day, everyone.
Happy Earth Day. Take care, everyone. See you next time.
Bye-bye.